What's going on, everyone? This is Stephen from After Hours Video, and welcome to After Dark, where we relive the movies that started it all. Tonight on After Dark, we're peeling back the skin and diving into the cinema of David Cronenberg. Flesh, metal, parasites, mutations, no one explores the body and the mind's darkest corners like him. I've got with me tonight, I've got Erik, Harrison, and Kyle all stopping by After Hours Video to dig into the grotesque beauty, the fear, and the fascination that makes Cronenberg a master of body horror. What's going on, guys?
Hey,
What? Dude, thanks
Hell
for
yeah.
having us. Holy
Yeah.
moly.
Absolutely. So before we get started, be sure to like, comment, engage with us, and subscribe. So without further ado, grab your pizza, top off your drink, and dim the lights. Tonight, we're rewinding to Cronenberg's 70s and 80s nightmares where science and terror gets a little too close for comfort. And we are going to be setting it off with one of Cronenberg's earlier films. You got Shivers. So before, hell yeah, there we go. Okay,
There we go.
so
that's the Vestron release. Which release do you get, Steven?
this one is, so this is the steelbook from Vestron.
Okay.
They did this as like a separate release. I believe I got that one through Walmart, ironically. But I just feel like this is a film that's probably due for a 4K sooner than later. But I just wanted, so I had a couple questions for you guys. So just before we set everything off with Shivers, I wanted to ask you guys, what was the first Cronenberg film you guys remember seeing, and how hard did it hit you at the time?
You boys go first.
All right. I'm trying to think if I either saw his version of The Fly first or if I saw Videodrome first, because Videodrome's in my pantheon of top 5 of movies, and it's been in that since I can remember going and seeking out films myself. But feel like I saw The Fly as the first thing. I have a distinct memory of a VHS copy of it on top of my grandpa's TV. So I'm sure my older cousin showed me that on Halloween first.
That's a great pick. What about you guys?
So with my dad, he had just clearly a list of important movies to show me at a very young age.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones, Alien, The Thing, and Scanners was he was so excited to show me Scanners. So for me, it was Scanners. I might have been, I don't know, 8, 9. I don't remember. Something pretty young. He was all about it.
That's not a bad one to start off with.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Erik?
It's got to be The Fly. I was trying to think as far as introduction wise, and it might have even been the conversation with my friend Ryan and I talking about remakes. And not even necessarily thinking of it being something to do with a 50s rendition or anything, but I was always big into Godzilla's, and so I guess there being a 90s Godzilla and different remakes of horror movies. I feel like maybe a talk of remakes was a thing, and The Fly being an introduction, and it's hard. I'm not going to take up too much time right now, but it could have made or break. It could be a make or break moment for what ended up following after for my interest in David Cronenberg. Watching a movie like that, it was insane. It was absolutely amazing.
Now, for you guys, was this your first exposure to body horror then in general, or were there other films maybe through John Carpenter or other directors that was kind of your gateway?
Probably.
There's always Alien. There's always The Thing. Maybe initially being introduced to it. This wasn't maybe until coming on to this community where body horror. I guess I didn't even know that term for a long time, other than just some heinously terrible things happening to people's skin and bodies
from the inside out, basically.
Yeah.
And if you want to point at 2 directors that were really kind of putting the feather in their cap with body horror, it's between Cronenberg and Stuart Gordon, especially with stuff the first two Reanimators for sure, and especially
Yeah,
with From Beyond.
dude.
Might
Totally.
have
They're
been
so
it.
good. Yeah, that's a good point
Yeah.
because I don't think that Stuart Gordon gets put in the conversation enough when it comes to body horror, right? I mean, I think you're the first director that most people will point to is Cronenberg, but yeah, you got to give some credit where credit's due. Now, when you guys were discovering David Cronenberg, was it through recommendation? Was it like a random VHS rental, or was it like late night TV viewing that you discovered his film through, or like the initial ones that you guys saw?
I think Harrison and I have like this similar story of having a dad who was like a freak for weird films. And like making sure that like I got like undue trauma as a young child watching those movies. So I remember my dad being like showing me Cronenberg probably too young at 12. I think is the first time I watched Scanners, and I mentioned also having an older cousin who at 10 was like, "We're watching The Fly."
God, I can't even imagine watching it that early, if I'm being honest.
I mean, I think you've heard the previous episode I did with Eric on his show of just like, this wall of trauma movies I grew up to, like next to next to, like Little Home on the Prairie and Black Beauty on our
Yeah, definitely definitely going for a different aesthetic. I mean, I distinctly remember Videodrome was based on like a friend's recommendation, and I just had never really seen anything like it. Maybe probably the closest film would have to be like The Thing, but obviously those films are just very, very different as far as like concept. But the body horror fascination that I kind of took on after that, I mean, it made me really truly appreciate just how insane these films can end up being.
Mhm.
Now, when you guys think of Cronenberg's earlier work, is there like a first image or scene that comes to mind for you guys?
There's definitely a few.
Sure.
It's hard
Sure.
not to think of a lot of scenes. I mean, he's the master of it for a reason.
Yeah.
Because like I feel like I don't know, because I rewatched a few movies for this discussion, but I don't know. They're so like The Fly. God, that movie's so ingrained in my brain, and I can't
Yeah.
remember the last time I fully sat down and watched it. For this like before I rewatched it for this discussion. But whenever I just when you're watching it, I'm like, oh my god, that's the whole movie's in my brain.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick one scene, but Cronenberg's just so good at just making stuff that sits in your mind.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want like a sort of like thesis statement for Cronenberg as a director, I would say look no further than the Videodrome scene of Max Wren
Yes.
reaching
Yeah.
into the vaginal VHS player
Yeah.
inside.
Well,
Like that scene and that poster are like that is one of the most iconic horror movie posters in my opinion. Of just like the art's incredible on it. It's also like an artifact and a snapshot of an era too of like home video and this sort of like CRT screen that he's
Yeah.
melting out of
Yeah.
coming the forefront. It kind of the opposite of what happens.
Yeah,
in the
no,
movie.
it's definitely, I mean, once you actually see the context of the film, I mean, it takes on a much sleazier tone to the rest of the film. But the one I always think about is, and maybe it's a little on the nose, is the head explosion at the beginning of Scanners. I mean, like even when I
do
didn't know
not.
what I didn't even know what that movie was, up until that point. But I always distinctly remember that specific scene that happened, and it's just like I'm like, I got to know more about this. Like, what is what is the context of this? You would see it on like I think it was like MySpace. Somebody had posted it somewhere, but it's just I don't know. It's crazy. He definitely has like a lasting impact when it comes to his films. Now, if you had to pick one Cronenberg film from this era to put on the staff picks wall of a video store, which one would it be and why?
Really quick for a scene, let me give you this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
this
Yeah, I
is
gotta think.
this is something where when you mention, like me seeing like The Fly, I'm almost positive that's like the first movie that I saw from Cronenberg. But when I think of seeing his name, I think back to looking online to blogs as far as like lists of like the nastiest movies ever or like the
Yep.
most brutal movies ever. And bringing me back to discovering the Criterion collection of Naked Lunch. And if we want to start down the path of me having no interest in David Cronenberg, we'll talk about Naked Lunch. However, okay, the birdcage scene, still to this day. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yep.
He walks into that room, and those two people are melded together. When I went back and I'd been watching all these movies, I had thought that I forgot about that. I thought that maybe I'd like made up something. I couldn't remember where that scene would have come into play. That scene is still horrifying. And I remember being in my room, it being a Sunday, popping in that DVD of that. And like the rest of the movie, I'm just like, God, this is ridiculous. These Star Wars looking fucking monsters. But then that scene happened. I'm like, oh, this is, I mean, traumatizing. Like more than other horror movies. Like that specific part, I was just like, oh shit, I should not be watching this.
I got to put down my notes real quick. Eric, not William S. Burroughs fan.
You heard it here first.
You're here first. So it won't be the last time.
Yeah, I mean, I think like realistically, kind of going back to what you guys were talking about earlier, I feel like probably the more accessible film would have to be probably The Fly. Like it just for a recommendation for someone to pick up that maybe isn't as familiar with his work, because like you really dive into maybe like his earlier films or even some of his later films that came after that. I don't know if they're as accessible. I mean, he has a pretty diverse filmography for the films that he's done. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, there's a ton of depth.
Yeah. I'm trying to bring it back to the staff pick, and like staff pick would be like, do I want to show somebody something freaky that they've never seen before? Or do I want to like open somebody up to the idea of exploring his filmography? And like, it's kind of a tie for me between like, would I recommend? I think people should watch The Brood from him first,
dude.
Just because like it's the most, especially for a 70s film, feels the most like a traditional horror movie and has a like, central mystery to it. I mean, there's all the like, psychosexual, like quite literally psychosexual stuff that's happening that's like, sort of beyond the surface level of the film. But like at the end of the day, it is just telling a scary mystery and then becomes a David Cronenberg movie in the last 15
goes off
minutes.
the rails.
Yeah. It's like the coolest rug pull out of all.
Oh, it's definitely a rug pull.
It's awesome.
But then, like, I think the other one that I would have to say, I mean, like you talk about depth and like sort of like scope of him as a director, like Videodrome, again, is my favorite movie of his, but it's the one that when I tell people, it's like, if you want to get like an idea of what Cronenberg is like, that's the movie you should watch.
I agree. I think honestly too, like maybe not necessarily my favorite from him, but I feel like Videodrome is far enough, where you're like, okay, I can see, the realm that I'm going to, possibly be able to escape into, but also like accessible enough where just a random person that pops it in is going to be like, what is going on? But not to the point where they like want to turn it off and be like, what the fuck? This is garbage,
Could you guys agree that as time went on with his films, they kind of progressively got stranger and stranger, that I feel like you really have to enjoy his films, even all the way up to like Crimes of the Future, like the more recent one. I mean, if I wasn't already pre-established with his directing style and his films, I don't know if I would really get anything out of that the same way. I mean, at least for myself, I felt like it was cool to see him kind of return to body horror, but for somebody that's not familiar with his work at all, I mean, I could see that being super off-putting.
Yeah. No, I think you should throw people right at the deep end and make them watch Crash first.
I mean, I do love that movie, but I don't know how many people would actively enjoy that. I can respect that though.
Horny.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to tell Cronenberg something about Cronenberg? Just horny.
Dude,
absolutely
horny. Yeah, but like sexuality, but you're also scared of it.
Now, was there ever a Cronenberg cover art that completely freaked you out before you even saw the movie?
Oof.
I never.
Yeah. Original poster for Dead Ringers.
Oh, that's a great choice.
Oh, that's a
I
pretty
didn't
cool
think about
one.
that.
Yeah.
I remember, like, especially because that movie came out, you know, I mean, it was 88 that comes out in, so it's before I was born, but that's another one on the shelf where it was like that Xerox image, the three faces all melding into one. You know, the rest of the movies that were on the shelf in my house, like, you know, kind of, campy's the wrong word, but they had that 80s pop art to, you know, the VHS cover art that people glom onto, especially when I'm looking at Harrison's Gates of Hell shirt right
I
now.
thought someone would notice.
Hell yeah, let's go.
I don't have a Cronenberg shirt, so
Yeah, close enough.
yeah.
But you know, like Dead Ringers, it almost looked like something I like wasn't supposed to look at. You know, start black and white cover to this film, and the image is just like, you know, it's a dead on of three faces all looking at you, bleeding into each other, and it freaked me out.
I believe it's the red contrast with their like what is it? Their doctor's attire. That's very distinct.
I never really had a cover that scared me. Again, because of my dad mostly showing me this stuff. I remember like being able to find them in the video store, but I don't know, because like the Scanners cover I thought was just cool. That's how I felt with most of his covers that I could recognize that was a Cronenberg movie at the time. I always thought they were awesome.
They're so iconic. I mean, I even, you know, it just always makes you kind of wonder a little bit more about the film. I mean, everything ranging from like, I look at like how iconic the cover of Scanners is, or the Brood, like the Brood. It just makes me want to know more about like, what is this movie about, or like what secrets are, you know, hidden within this film, you know? Well, let's kick it off. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into Shivers, which is one of his earlier works. And for those of you guys who haven't had a chance to check it out, actually revolves around in a high-rise apartment complex. A secret experiment goes horribly wrong, unleashing a parasite that turns its host into violent carriers. What begins as an isolated outbreak spreads floor to floor, transforming a luxury tower into a breeding ground of terror. In Shivers, Cronenberg's nightmare vision asks, what happens when desire itself becomes a disease? So, what's your guys' relationship with this film? Was this something that you rented early on, or was this a little bit further into getting into Cronenberg?
This was one for me that it was after I started exploring his filmography. I think something I'm pointing to the last episode I did with Erik and Harrison of that, like, I always like when I discover a director or discover their work, I always like I find something that's probably contemporary or like, you know, the one that gets recommended to me first, and then try to go back to their first one so I can kind of follow along with like their sort of God, I'm trying to use like not I'm trying to use not letterbox guide language for this.
We can't not talk film, bro, with Cronenberg.
Come on now.
It's gonna happen.
He's the best he's ever made. But anyway, no, I mean, like, I think that's important to do so. So, like, going back and looking at Shivers, I mean, like, I hesitate to ever say that, like, any of Cronenberg's movies, like, his horror work and his sci-fi work, especially, is like, ooh, you know, it's not out to scare you. It's like, it's really more so to make you as the viewer feel bad for what you're witnessing. Like he has this way of like inserting you as this like third party to what you're seeing, like be it the lurid violence or any of the other sort of atrocious acts that happens in this movie. Like you feel for these characters so much that you want to stop it, but you're so like enticed to keep seeing what's going on that it puts you in a really weird headspace. And I think like Shivers is really effective, especially looking at a movie when like I was like, oh, this probably came out in like 82, and it's like, no, it's 1975. This movie comes out.
I had no idea.
Did you guys feel did this well, doesn't it feel like it's almost ahead of its time with like how innovative it is, and just there's something about like especially his earlier films, they have a very bleak feeling to them, and this one's obviously no different. It has like this very claustrophobic feel to it. Obviously, we're in the apartment complex, but it feels like as the film goes on, it becomes more and more claustrophobic. We know that things are starting to spiral out of control, as they do with most of other Cronenberg films. But this one, I just think that it sets the tone for everything else that we get from him, whether it's with this film or anything later on down the line.
Yeah, I don't want to jump ahead, but like I feel like this film and Rabbit are a very
Yes.
like, you know, they're
Pretty
holding
cohesive.
each other
Yeah.
a very similar off of one another. I mean, there's an argument I've seen people say about Shivers, which is like, you know, it's a zombie movie to a certain extent. You know, it's what makes zombies scary is always that it's something familiar yet alien at the same time, and it's the law of economy that that these people that were once recognizable are now
Yeah.
monstrous to you. Even though the people in Shivers, once they get infected, they seem to be having a pretty good time. But
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because they always felt like two sides of the coin when you talk about his earlier works. Now, do you guys feel like Shivers set the tone for David Cronenberg's career in body horror?
I think.
Oh, I was gonna say,
you.
I think immediately what it sets the tone for me is kind of how personal all his movies feel, and like I guess not personal just for him, but like I don't know, there's such a attack on human urges, especially in his early stuff. Human emotions, any urge you have of just sex, violence, and hatred and all that. It just kind of, there's such a like very plain, like we're all very susceptible to it, and a lot of times we even enjoy some of that stuff, and that's what's pretty clear to me, is how personal it is.
To jump off of that, Harrison, I wrote down in my notes, like, I think that this work exemplifies the sort of thesis of a lot of his movies too, which is like, you as a viewer are enticed to continue watching because what you're seeing is so compelling and exciting to you, but in equal amounts you should feel disgusted with yourself for wanting to continue to see it. Like, I mean, it's like a funny way of putting it, but it's like, I think that's remarkably true of the majority of his work.
100%. And it feels like the body horror that we see, not only in this film, but a number of the other films that we're obviously going to talk about, is it feels like it's, in a lot of ways, it's symbolic of like the loss of control, right? We're like, specifically in this film, you have like the parasites, and this feels like it's a commentary on like not only sexual desire but social decay in a lot of ways. And it's interesting because this film just takes some big swings, and like I said, it definitely does feel like it's ahead of the time, when it comes to like the topics it's tackling. But I agree, like a lot of his earlier works do feel very like, it's like horror meets sexuality in a lot of ways, which there's definitely not a lack of in this film, that's for sure. Now, go ahead, Kyle.
Touching on that real quick, I hinted at this in our group chat, but like I did like 3 hours of listening to records and research on this movie because it was the one I was the least familiar with. He obviously, like, famously was funded by, or this movie was partially funded by the Canadian National Film Board, which, like, they are much better about funding the arts than we are. As in, like, they will give grants to pretty much anybody that has a creative endeavor. But the really interesting thing is it was also partially funded by Cinepix, which Cinepix was a production studio that existed in Canada from, like, I think 1968 onward, and was kind of like, it was twofold. There was one side of the company that was like doing softcore and sexploitation movies, and also was like the first North American producer of the Isla films, which is how those made it into America, was through them. But also like an artist incubator and would latch on to young creators like Cronenberg and help get their movies produced. But I think there was probably some guidance from the sexploitation side, which is why the movie feels as voyeuristic as it does, and the camera lingers a few seconds longer than it should on some of the
It
actors
definitely
and
does.
Here's the crazy part of this. Cinepix is Lionsgate.
Oh.
Really?
Okay. So that's crazy.
Yeah. Wow.
Cinepix would eventually get bought and become Lionsgate Films.
Wow. Okay.
That's
I guess that's how they
fascinating.
ended up with
So-
Shivers. Okay. All right.
Yeah. I would, yeah, it's probably why we
Yeah,
did
so
Shivers.
that's interesting though, because that makes a lot of sense why it has the association with it, even on the Steelbook for that matter. But putting two and two together, that's fascinating that you made that connection on it.
Yeah, I would definitely. I was just going to say to your audience too. I definitely look into the history of Cinepix if you want like a peer into underground-ish Canadian film and like early directors from the sort of Canadian scene and how that film worked in Canada versus Hollywood and independent releases in America. But that's a whole rabbit hole. I could go on for like an hour and won't.
That's crazy. Well, and it's interesting because you touched on their approach that they had, especially with this film. It's that they were so willing to kind of fund in-house in a lot of ways. Films get made, and I would say that he's been wildly successful. So you can't help but wonder like what that relationship with them and Cronenberg, really how that kind of moved his career, Now, do you feel like for the high-rise setting or the high-rise apartment setting, do you feel like this was effective for creating a sense of isolation and paranoia in the film?
Yeah, and like you said in your description of the movie, it is kind of like a downfall of society type movie. It's just, it takes place in an apartment, but yet you see how like literally top floor to bottom floor just slowly, not really slowly, how quickly it can, if an apartment building can be so quickly like taken over like that.
Well, I even think like the last, sort of lines in the movie, if like, the Canadian government like denies, any of these horrid acts, like regardless of it starting to take over the country like overnight, that like even after, and again, this is explosion rapid, but like martial law is declared and they're still like, yeah, that's probably not happening. Like, no reason.
Listen, you don't want to get anyone, like panicked about it. They're definitely trying to keep it contained. Now, how did you guys feel like the slow build of the infection heightened the tension as the movie went on? Did you feel like it was effective in doing so, or how Cronenberg kind of structured the film?
I think for being in 75, and kind of seeing the take that something like this, I feel like I was pretty late to seeing Shivers, and honestly, like going back and watching it, and then kind of like how we were talking about a little bit ago, the date of it, and just seeing like I guess thinking of zombie movies, at large, kind of of the time of like 70s and 80s, and going back and seeing this, I'm just like, okay, and then having like a setting like that, where later on you kind of have something along the lines of like Demons 2.
Yep.
That's a great where point. There's like a high rise, type, and then Evil Dead Rise, and so I guess kind of seeing that. I don't know necessarily like Kyle had kind of mentioned this too, but for sure, like when I go back and I watch this movie, it puts me in a complete mentality of that, like I am in some sort of fucking weird voyeurism, like I am watching something that this guy is plopping me, or this person, I don't even know, the director, whatever, is putting me in this position that I don't feel like I really want to be in, and just seeing some of the things that happen. And I think the setting of that though too, kind of before I peel back layers, or I kind of, am sitting here trying to dissect anything, it adds to it. It just makes it all the more uncomfortable. And maybe that's just the fact of like, we're sitting here and, everybody, I think, well, maybe not everybody, but, at one point, like I have lived in an apartment and you're like, this just feels too comfortable and feels too regular to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like plot myself in this situation.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, this is definitely a film that I feel like it almost feels like he was laying the groundwork down for like what he would be known for later on down the line for like some of his later films. And I feel like Rabid in a lot of ways feels like kind of that next step with what he was trying to achieve, you know. So I can appreciate Shivers for the fact it's like very raw, it's very visceral. And I was going to ask you guys, speaking of which, like, was there a certain scene in the film that left like a lasting impression on you guys, or ones that stood out to you? I mean,
It's definitely the end scene for me in the pool. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the better endings.
Yeah.
For Cronenberg. It just, I don't know. There's just something about like the entire apartment complex of people getting the last guy in the pool like that and just devolving in that madness in the pool. I don't know. That's such a that'd be terrifying in that situation. There's nothing you can do. It's
Well, yeah, I wrote down my notes after my viewing today of the movie of like, man, that pool scene is absolutely seared into my memory the first
Yep.
time I watched it. You know, I mean, from like, let's see, it'd be about 19 years ago is the first time I watched this movie, and like anytime I go to Shivers, it was that, well, the parasites kind of look like poop, and that
I wouldn't say it's much
And
better
then,
in Rabbit either. Like I don't know. I definitely don't think, you know, for the time that they had that design nailed down.
well, the crazy thing about this movie, allegedly, it's like the first use of like a bladder effect in a film too.
oh
That's like where the sort of bladder undulation inside of the body
Yeah.
special effects started here.
wow, okay.
So like that's cool. But yeah, the pool scene, like Harrison said, man, it's like the most
Great
iconic
ending.
shot of the movie.
And okay, so kind of going back to where we first discovered this, was this for you guys? Was this through like VHS, or was it DVD, late night TV for this film?
This was the first time watch for me, to be honest. I watched it a few weeks ago before this. So
Okay.
yeah, there were a hand this and Rabid were first time watches for me. For this
Crazy.
discussion. Yeah. There's a couple.
I'm
I've been sitting on.
surprised.
I'm still waiting to watch Crash. Even that's one that's been on my list forever, and I'm like, I know I'm gonna like it. I know what it's about, but like, I'll watch it one day, and yeah. So, but I eliminated a couple for this discussion at least. So
Okay, fair enough.
There you go.
And what about you guys? Was it through like early on VHS, DVD, more recent?
I think this one was DVD.
This was a DVD.
Okay.
movie.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure for either of the, like this one and we'll talk about Rabbit afterwards, but both of those were DVD. I mean, those were, I feel like that they were like a little bit harder to find in the video store just in general, as opposed to some of the other ones that we'll talk about. Now, did you guys feel like this was like a more forbidden underground title compared to like mainstream horror rentals that you would typically see? Like, does it feel like a little bit more obscure?
I mean, I feel like
This and
yeah. For whatever reason, it's funny, I guess, like when you bring up that point, I think back, and when I think of any David Cronenberg stuff being in stores, it was always like The Fly, which
Mhm.
obviously, I mean, there's, you know, like a bigger, you know, kind of name behind that and Goldblum and all that. But I always remember Videodrome, which
Yep,
is
same.
insane to think of. Like, why
Mhm.
was that movie so like readily accessible?
That's
crazy.
I mean,
I think it's because it had a different distributor. I think it was distributed through Universal, where it was Canadian distribution for scanners
was that?
initially.
Oh, okay. I guess, and maybe that's James Woods. I guess.
yeah, that's what I was thinking, and especially because I think those are like the more known Cronenberg films, and I
But what a
remember.
fucking bonkers movie. You know
I
what I'm saying? Like
I
when you
swear.
say that out loud, like The Fly, okay, like as crazy
Yeah.
as it is, as disgusting as like the puking of the vial, like I okay, but you get it. You get the love story behind it, the you know, the actors that are in it. But Videodrome, I'm just like, why was that in fucking everywhere?
It's definitely a very edgy movie. I mean, think about it for the time,
Yeah.
though. It's kind of
Totally.
pushing the confines of like societal norms, I would say.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, that's a good point because I remember even The Brood, trying to track down The Brood was really tough. Scanners, I didn't really see. I mean, that might have been a little bit more common, but The Brood
I
was
think
always,
Scanners.
yeah, The Brood was very tough for me to find when I was going down, um, Cronenberg's filmography and trying to find more of his movies to check out. Um, and last but not least, how did the cover art compare to flashier horror, VHS tapes or DVDs of the 80s and 90s? So if you're like pinpointing, those decades, how do you feel like it stacks up?
It's a cool cover.
This movie belongs to a very specific era of poster art where it's just ugly looking, but it's ugly in the best sense too. Like unnervingly so. I mean, the original poster for the movie, the black and white one with the
Yep.
blood coming out of the bathtub, looks like it's washed. Which I can point to, like, this is a movie Terrence joke about all the time, but I like it's almost the same art style as the Trooper VHS art is too.
You did not just compare Trooper to
I did.
the Trooper will get you. Oh my god.
Jesus
Fucking movie.
Christ.
I mean,
did not
even
expect that.
but even for, the one where I think like the image of her, like the woman in the bathtub, like with her head leaned back. I mean, I would say that that's probably one of the more iconic poster arts from any of his films. Like you distinctly can remember that that's the film. I mean, I don't know if I could really say the same for the other ones being as iconic.
Yeah.
Dead
I mean, when I
Ringers,
picked up the Vestron,
yes,
like that
that's it.
was, the
Yeah.
draw, was like even before remembering seeing the movie, seeing this and it just being like the slip and everything. Like I was like, I really don't remember this. I need to go and check it back out. Come to find out, I have it on DVD. But sometimes these things happen. You get another copy and you get a rejuvenated energy for watching it, and
Exactly.
it's still just as uncomfortable as the first time I watched it.
Listen, you can't knock those Vestron releases. Well, they used to be less expensive.
Yeah,
but,
like,
I don't know
11
why
bucks?
they're so expensive
Son
now.
of a bitch.
Dude, I never
Boy,
thought
oh
I'd be
boy.
paying like $25 for Ghoulies Go to College.
Yeah, why the oh my god, right?
Isn't that crazy?
It feels like a sin.
Yeah.
Try to give Harrison $45 for Sledgehammer.
Oh,
dude.
What TBD? When is that? I feel like I don't even know is that coming out soon?
I don't know. It's supposed to be soon.
Yeah, copies have been shipping to other other stores. I saw that. Was it Viper Tampa
They got them. I didn't get
Yeah.
them. Dang.
Unreal.
I mean, they are technically closer to Georgia than we are. It makes sense.
Who's that through again? Who released
Terrorvision?
Right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And they got Invader too. Invader's another one that's coming out.
I didn't completely derail, but I had a YouTube video show up. It was a video essay that was like when a bad movie becomes actually scary, and I was like, oh, what could this be? And this guy was like trying to explain to me how Sledgehammer is like actually a really scary and messed up horror film. I was like, oh my god, what are we doing here, man?
Let's see, he's trying. Just gonna jump in the chat real quick. We got Steven joining us. What's up, Steven? Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. All right. Okay, so we're moving right along, and we've got on the flip side of this, we've got Rabid, right? So we're moving a little bit further into Cronenberg's career, and after a horrific motorcycle accident, a young woman undergoes an experimental surgery that saves her life, but leaves her with a terrifying new hunger. What begins as a strange thirst soon spreads like wildfire, infecting everyone she touches with uncontrollable rage. Rabid is Cronenberg's feverish vision of infection and desire colliding, where one bite can turn a city into chaos. So, was this another one that you guys, when you were discovering Cronenberg films, was this, hey, I checked out like Videodrome or The Fly first, and then I had to go back and discover Rabid?
I completely skip Rabid. So at least when I was younger, I think the copy that I had was either a bad VHS rip to DVD, or the VHS copy that I had was so bad looking and so muddy. I was like, I can't even tell what's going on in this. I have the 2K scan of it, and it's still, I mean, like that the asset that they got for the movie still looks like a movie made in 1957. Regardless of how much upscaling that they did. I think that actually improves the film viewing it now and like understanding it more than just being a kid being like there's nothing happening in the first 30 minutes of this movie. It's
What about you guys? Did you guys discover this one a little bit later on, or was this early into when you guys were getting into Cronenberg?
I don't know necessarily. I mean, as far as a timeline, this is where it's going to get kind of hard, and where I'm going to become the heel of this conversation. Because, like I say, I watched The Fly. I love The Fly. I thought it was absolutely amazing. And I don't know if this is just me being a teenager and you know, Kyle mentions the whole, you know, nothing happens in the first, you know, half hour of this movie. I feel like there was definitely movies, even at that point in my life, where, you know, it was a little bit of a slow burn and still appreciated. But I don't know when exactly I would have saw this, but it was definitely after The Fly, because I think that was the draw, was the director, and I was just like not into it. And I watched it 2 days ago, and it's like, I mean, it's still fine. It's okay. You know, I've had a lot of conversations with friends that are like diehard Cronenberg fans, and they're like, "What? That one?" I'm like, I mean,
you're like, all right, take it easy.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like, look, I you know, and I don't know. I don't want it to be, you know, necessarily that I'm just like an absolute simplest and fucking, you know, like just have like 2 brain cells that only fire off on Godzilla and, you know, and giant, you know, monsters. But I'm just, yeah, I watched it back again, and I was just like, it's okay. But I mean, I think a weird thing that, you know, like doesn't quite process in my brain, and I've been trying to kind of reflect on, is like when I get into a band, let's just say, I discover a band and I'm like, oh, I want to go back and listen to everything that they have front to back. I want to listen to the whole album.
Yep.
And I think back to like my relativity with that concept to film, and how there was different things like, oh, I saw The Thing and John Carpenter. I went back and watched some of his other movies. I'm like, yeah, this one's not doing it for me, and this isn't, you know. And then thinking back to like The Fly and watching some of the other stuff, where it's something that I found specifically in going back and watching these, or like us talking about David Cronenberg, where like it's weird, but for some reason film doesn't work like that for me. Like I'm not overly excited to go back and retrack all of their steps prior. And maybe David Cronenberg fucked this up for me for the rest of my life.
He set the bar too high.
Dude, you said, you know, when you jump into the pool and it's The Fly, where do you go from there?
Yeah.
You know? And then I don't know what exactly the correlation would have been if it was like The Fly and then going back and watching you know, if it was, you know, Videodrome or Naked Lunch, or even going even further. But you know, with all of this negativity, as soon as we get to The Brood, I can't wait until we talk that, because
well,
just that movie had made this whole thing a godsend.
Okay, so it's funny you say that though, because I would say that his earlier works definitely requires like a certain level of patience, and you know, it's obviously not going to be as refined, but it's so fascinating that you mentioned like right around that time frame as like the turning point to where you really started maybe appreciating his work a little bit more. I can definitely see how maybe outside of our circle, that for somebody that's not as familiar with his works, that this could feel like a little bit of a slog, or it's just not as polished. But I think that that's something that I can really appreciate about it's like a 1-2 punch that you had with Shivers and then Rabid, and both exploring kind of a similar concept, I would say, you know, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, sure.
Now, how do you guys feel like with Rabid, you know, how does this film build on the infection concept Cronenberg initially explored in Shivers?
It goes to such greater heights. I mean, it goes from one building to with Rabid, where it's all of
Yeah,
Montreal.
Yeah.
I know.
For people are like, oh, it's like this kind of crazy zombie thing going on, but we still got to get our pictures with Santa.
I,
Does this feel kind of like when you go back and you watch these? Sorry, Harrison, just really quick though.
no, go ahead.
Like, do you kind of have a feeling of like a Evil Dead 1 versus Evil Dead 2, where it's like, oh, I got a budget, and
Yeah.
now all of a sudden, like, I'm going to flourish with this idea and really do what it was. I mean, it's not at all the same, but like when I went back and watched and saw that these were kind of, you know, right back to back, I was like,
Mhm.
huh.
Yeah,
Rabid
that
feels
feeling
like
too.
it's like, oh, now I want the whole city. I got a piece of that fucking cake and I want that whole thing, baby.
He's got the Canadian money back in him.
Yeah.
Hey man, but the Canadian Film Board support this one too.
Hey, listen, if we didn't have them, we
Crazy.
wouldn't have Cronenberg. So
Yeah, dear Lord.
no, but that's really interesting that you mentioned that, because it does in some ways it does feel like larger in scope. It's that next film in his filmography that is obviously it's trying to raise the bar that much further. And I think that is a really good comparison, because we did see that with Sam Raimi. Obviously he was making the jump from the almost like driving classic that we got with the first Evil Dead, and then it becomes larger in scope, bigger, more explosive with Evil Dead 2, taking a lot of the things that he did right in the first film and just enhancing it and taking it to that next level. Now, did you guys find the outbreak scenes in Rabid more frightening because they took place in public spaces rather than a single location like in Shivers?
I found myself cheering for the zombies akin to watching Dawn of the Dead more so than I was like kind of freaked out by them in
Okay.
Shivers. Like I couldn't wait until I saw another freak spitting up.
What about you guys?
I
like
agree. Yeah.
I liked this one better than Shivers. Although I will like, I guess the rabid people and the zombies. There's times where they're, ravenous monsters, and then there's other times they're slow and thinking and plotting, and it's whatever. But I think what this one does better is, even though it is bigger in scope, this is kind of where it really felt personal, and kind of gets into just hopelessness of like how hard it is to like beat addiction, stuff like this. This one definitely, I think, hit more on a personal level, even though it does have a bigger scope for me. Like the end when he's on the phone listening to her, being like, oh, I can't beat this. Maybe I can. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's so hopeless on the phone, trying to talk any sense into her, and that's so in my brain when I watched it.
I think Rabid tells more of a character story than Shivers does, because Shivers is like, there is a character of the doctor in it, of Roger, but the story is more about the building itself. Like the building almost becomes its own character, with like the are so interrupted by everybody inside of it. Where Rabid's more just like Rose's story of like this experimental treatment, like this doctor's humor for this experimental treatment horribly mutated me, gave me this bizarre stinger inside of my armpit, and makes me desire human blood for sustenance now. And it causes this infection, but like she realizes her responsibility in all this and is trying to deal with it, but is consistently on the run. And you're seeing it from her perspective. You're seeing it from one person's perspective, where Shivers is like 20 different people's perspective.
Now, how did you feel like the victims' reactions heightened the horror in this film?
Oh, I mean, one of the first was hilarious. The guy that's like, "Oh, I must have cut myself on something."
Do you have a knife in there? What are you doing?
I'm hugging a naked woman. What are you talking about?
So he's playing it down.
And like, even like that, he's like, "Oh, you're unaware of where you are, huh?" And he's just like, I'm just like, "You horny bastard!" Jesus, just cover her with a sheet.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise, get out of here.
These are
the 70s, so I guess he's thinking differently, But
I
oh
think
my
that
God.
Cronenberg, like for both of these films, I mean, these are like horny movies, Yeah, there's no way around it, and
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy
You
because
don't
I'm
stop here, brother. It
no,
doesn't stop
no,
here,
it
Steve-O.
does not. It
Jesus
does not.
Christ.
Oh,
Now, kind of speaking of like the poster art or the VHS cover art, did you feel like that this looked more like a zombie movie than a body horror movie on first maybe first impression?
From what I can remember,
Which
yeah,
poster?
I'm trying to think of what the
Yeah.
poster arts would have been.
The posters of her inside of the freezer.
oh, that's right. That's. I was trying to think of what it was. You're right. It's her in the freezer.
Because there's that poster, then there's the illustrated one they use for the Italian poster. That's the one that looks like a cool
Oh yeah,
giallo.
yep. The first one that you guys were talking about, I mean, it's kind of funny you guys were talking about like the addiction angle to it, but it almost looks like she OD'd,
Yeah,
Yep.
that's
Yeah.
yeah.
which is fascinating. And lastly, for this
Okay.
one, do you guys feel like it has the reputation of being one of the gnarlier tapes that you'd probably find in the horror section if we were at the video store?
No, maybe not quite
I feel like
yet.
there's no.
Yeah.
Rabbit's just a movie that I feel like gets forgotten. I think it gets conflated, like we were saying earlier too, with it being sort of a or Shivers being a blueprint of things to come, and Cronenberg reiterating a similar idea again with Rabbit. That a lot of people are like, "Well, that's the same movie."
Plus,
Yeah.
you're after Dawn of the Dead
Yeah.
at that point because Shivers is
Yeah.
before Dawn.
Yeah.
Rabbit's after.
Yeah.
So, I think that
I
doesn't
kept
help.
in watching.
Oh, I was
sorry,
saying that
Harrison.
probably doesn't help being after Dawn of the Dead, being a similar movie. Yeah.
In watching Shivers, I kept being like, "There's some like really cool car crashes in this movie, isn't there?" Watch Rabbit, I was like, "Oh yeah."
The motorcycle accident.
Motorcycle accident. I love the dump truck going around and just like finding rabid people to like
Wait,
kill
okay.
and shoot. And...
So in the opening of Rabid, there's like, okay, so they see that there's like that couple that sees that there's the motorcycle accident, and she's up there, she's got bandages like all underneath her eyes, and I was
Mhm.
assuming like that's to use like what, the binoculars, but then the guy pulls up and he's got like a full like head wrap on. I'm like,
Mhm.
what's your story, man? I'm more interested in like what your background is, man. Like, why are you walking around like that?
Yeah.
Looks like a fucking mummy.
Maybe in Winters or something.
Yeah, you see, pretty big ghoulies ended up
I
on
know.
set that day.
All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead. We're moving right along. And speaking of kind of like the bizarre and a film that left us with a lot of questions, probably more questions than answers that we got from the film. And we're gonna be talking about The Brood.
Yeah.
Dude.
This was Eric's awakening to Cronenberg, if you will. So what are your guys's maybe your video store memories that you had with this film, or like your early discovery when you first got into this movie? Was this what you had heard about or what you were expecting when you first saw it?
You guys go.
My first exposure to The Brood is not from the movie itself, but was from like early YouTube compilations of death metal bands and horror movie scenes being over like as a music video to avoid copyright. And which is funny because it's like you're stealing copyrighted material so you can put these albums online. But I remember specifically like there was one for The Brood. I can't remember the band that it was, but I was like, what the fuck is this movie? Because it was just the last 10-minute scenes that they were playing, but it loop over and over of her licking the fetus. And I was like, sounds the gnarliest shit I've ever seen.
Hilarious.
I'm cool. So it took me like finding it that way and then being like, oh, it's Cronenberg. Cool. I could probably find that.
Yeah, it's a movie that I felt like it was, I would say it was after Videodrome and The Fly when I first started branching off a little bit more. So I found Scanners, I found this. The Dead Zone wasn't too far off from initially discovering those two masterpieces in a lot of ways, but man, talk about like a payoff that you get in this film. Like, and it's pretty bizarre. I can only imagine what it would have been like if somebody was watching this at the time that this actually came out.
So I looked up reviews from the time because
Mhm.
I always do that. And it's funny that like a lot of people that reviewed his previous work were like, "This dude's a freak," like these movies aren't for anybody. These movies hate people. These are designed to disgust, and that's it. And like critics really liked The Brood. They were like, "Oh, like Cronenberg got in, and he has a lot of talent behind the camera," which is like funny because it's like he has a lot of talent behind the camra for Rabid
Agreed.
and Shivers too. Like
Mhm.
remarkable
Video
for
drone.
the shots that he's getting in the.
And they
Well,
hated
that's
the
after
video
this
drone.
movie. Yes. Oh my God, the reviews for Videodrome are
Oh,
crazy. So like, I don't know. It's funny to see those old reviews, and this movie is like it does make a lot of sense. Like, I think after making two freaky movies, you kind of have to be like, okay, how do I make this like more? How do I become more palatable so more people get to see my art?
Now, do you guys think that this film is more accessible, maybe for someone that's not familiar with his work?
This would be a good start, I'd
Okay.
say. Yeah,
Yeah. My notes from my viewing straight up say if I was gonna a place to start with Cronenberg to recommend to somebody, it would be this movie.
Totally.
It
1,000,000%.
Can you guys agree that this film takes a little bit of patience for the payoff, though? Because it's not, for someone that maybe is maybe more accustomed to modern horror films, they're definitely to the point. They're a little bit quicker. And this, I mean, the setup is obviously super important. You understand like that there's a lot of trauma. There is essentially the family is divided, a lot of resentment. And I believe Cronenberg at the time was going through a divorce, if I recall correctly. Hence,
This was his
I believe
catharsis
it.
for
yeah,
his divorce.
and you can definitely feel it. Like this film
Yeah.
permeates the tension, the resentment that someone can have towards their significant other. So for those of you guys who haven't had a chance to check this out yet, so behind the doors of a radical psychotherapist clinic, something monstrous is being born. As the father fights for custody of his daughter, a series of brutal murders erupts, carried out by twisted childlike killers with a terrifying connection to their mother. Brood is Cronenberg at his most disturbing, a tale where rage takes physical form and family becomes the ultimate horror. So how do you guys feel like the Brood blends, like, we obviously know that there's the psychological horror aspect, but how do you guys feel like that blends with what Cronenberg's obviously known for with body horror?
I think he like rather astutely is still doing a lot of things he would try to discuss with the elements of body horror. Like there's a malformation and like sort of maladaptive practice that Nola is going through, not addressing her trauma. There's sort of fear from Frank. I watched the movie like a week ago, so I'm bouncing between my
you're
notes and
good.
memory here. Okay. But that Frank is like starting to recognize, both the effect that the divorce is having on him, but also his daughter. And there's like almost a lost plot beat in the movie where the daughter, like, there's like he's talking to Dr. Raglan, and it's like, hey, my daughter came home and she has scratches and bruises all over her, is being physically abused by my wife. But they're still just like, well, she still has to go home with her. And they kind of drop it because that's when the first kill happens.
It is really weird because they don't really, it's like, if someone was showing up like that, especially his daughter, like, wouldn't there be more intervention?
I think it's a plot beat that is just like, oh, there's something weird going on with Nola, and that's where it's supposed to be left. I might have just like looked into it a little bit too much because it's the ball rolling after that. But I think that it's like trying to say like that malformation from inside can be handed down. It can become something that eventually becomes inherited through your familial bonds, and like if you don't heal from those things, eventually they become the gifts that your children
Like,
inherit.
almost like a physical manifestation of trauma.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but I don't want to spoil the film because I just saw somebody in your chat be like, I haven't seen it, but like,
and yeah,
that's it. That's
Yeah, and so, you can obviously see like the overarching theme of like family dysfunction, like anger amongst the parents, um in a lot of ways the body is being treated as like a battlefield in a lot of ways, and this takes on, I think, a whole different tone. Now, did the film's pacing keep you on edge, or did it let the tension build too slowly for you guys when you first watched this?
Dude, the first time those little freaks show up, I was to the movie. I was like, I need to know
Yeah.
what's going on because it's so
It
fucking
felt
weird looking.
kind of Giallo-esque because I was pretty like, okay, who is this? What is this? Who's the
Yeah.
killer? And yeah, the little hints we get. I don't know. It was just it's Giallo to me because of like it's just weird enough to keep you
Mhm.
engaged, and but it doesn't reveal enough to be. I don't know. So yeah, I was kind of intrigued. And it's such again a divorcing couple. That this is like a really really nice small scale very human and common story. Immediately to me it's easy to get hooked into something like this.
Yeah.
There's even like an insidiousness to, like, maybe even unintentionally so, but with like Dr. Raglan in it too, where they talk about the tumors that are growing inside of people due to his treatment, which is supposed to heal you, and it's killing
Mhm.
one of them. Regardless of him knowing that, like, he's like, well, no, we got to keep doing it because I'm healing and saving
Yeah.
people. And it ultimately becomes this destruction, and he's like not really listening to what his seemingly from what the film's sort of like fiction is, like all these female patients are like, hey, I don't think this is working. I think this is actually doing more undue harm than anything. He's like, no, like you're just not listening to me as your doctor. So I think that's a byline that again we talk about, like sort of passing down ideas from film to film. I mean, it's something that's touched on before things get really crazy and rabid, but like really gets explored here a bit more.
Yeah, and okay, so we're gonna be diving a little bit further into spoilers. So if you guys haven't had a chance to see this, then I just want to give a full disclaimer. But now, do you guys consider the brood extensions of their parents' rage, or something more supernatural?
I think the meta commentary is extensions of like your own rage and your own like fury from traumas that has happened to you. I always hesitate to say trauma because I'm like, oh, it's an A24 movie. But it is. I mean, that is the fact. I mean, I think like that's sort of the fun, fantastic element of the movie that makes it science fiction, though, right?
It definitely tackles, I would say, in comparison to maybe more of the horror films that we were getting around that time, but it definitely tackles some more mature themes, and themes that I just didn't really feel like you see as frequently compared to your slashers that were coming out around the time, or horror films in that specific like decade. Now, how important is the brood in solidifying Cronenberg's reputation as a pioneer of psychological body horror?
If I would have saw this earlier, I probably would have had like a whole different viewpoint on David Cronenberg's work, like in general. Like I think if I would have saw this was a recent, like I watched this I think sometime late last month, or whenever, like right around when we were talking about doing this. I will tell you right now, cover art was a huge thing that was a deterrent for me forever. I remember there being either the VHS or the DVD, and it looked like it was like the Tommy Knockers or Children of the Corn, and both of those movies suck dick. So I'm like, I don't have any interest in this whatsoever, especially Children of the Corn. Hate that movie.
Damn,
Awful. So
you guys heard it here
Oh,
first.
dude.
Eric hates Children of the Corn.
Awful.
Now, do you like the sequels?
Absolutely not.
Children of the Corn 2 rules. I'm just
Yeah,
but
listen.
we'll do that another time.
I'll
You know
try
what?
to pop it on, but
you don't
no,
need to.
absolutely.
Listen, if we need a topic for a future video, maybe it will be tackling the Children of the Corn franchise.
Absolutely not. Anyway, so and the Tommy Knockers reminds me of like that time in the day that the USA like marathon didn't have anything else good to put on, and so it was like, oh, we'll just put on the Tommy Knockers, and you know, for whatever reason, it's when I just got out of school and I'm like, oh, I really wanted to put on something cool around October, and it's the Tommy Knockers again. God damn it.
Yeah, here we go again.
Yeah. But so seeing The Brood, you know, we kind of talk about like, you know, this being something that I popped on, you know, I'm like looking through like his stuff, looking through his earlier stuff, Shivers, Rabid, I'm impartial to. The Brood was so impactful. I wish that I would have watched this when I was younger, but maybe even more impressive that like being 37 and stumbling upon something like this, the first time that you're seeing these creatures was very effective. It was seriously like unnerving, like holy shit, what is that thing? And just from there, you know, and then we get to the very end, you know, spoiler wise, you know, where it's like, oh, okay, this, you know, Cronenberg just could not help himself but to have some weird ass shit
Overindulging.
like and it's great though. I think that was kind of the thing, you know, where it was like with something like this, with having, you know, even like the familiar matter of like divorce, which was this movie in the 70s?
79?
Yeah.
79.
Okay, so I guess close to the 80s. I feel like though, I mean, that wasn't really like a plot point that I remember seeing in a lot of movies, like when I was discovering 80s stuff and 70s stuff, was
before
divorce.
Possession. So yeah,
and I mean we're in the 80s, which is a pretty puritanical era socially as well. I mean, I don't know the sort of temperature check in Canada, but at least within North America, sort of a reform to Christian evangelicalism,
and
like the idea of, you can't talk about that. Right. That's not good.
And I don't know. I just, there was something about this movie at large. And I think really initially seeing that fucking creepy thing up in the corner of, you know, the shot and not quite, you know, it almost being like a Jaws thing. Like, wait, what, you know, and trying to rewind back. Dude,
the little hand.
This movie here.
Or
this
movie. Them breaking through, like what they're breaking through the door, is it?
Yeah,
and that's the scene that I remember before I'd even seen the movie, and I was like, what in the absolute fuck is going? They look like I don't even know, because they're like disfigured looking. You obviously know that they aren't like, you know, well, hopefully no one has kids that look like that, but
yeah, dude, the shot, I remember when I first saw it after tracking it down from that music video, that shot of the three of them walking down the road in their snowsuit. Cool. When I saw that, I remember just going, no, man, no, come on, man.
And even the classroom scene.
The classroom scene is what I was going to bring up. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's and what I love about, okay, so we're like 3 films into Cronenberg's filmography, and what I love about his films is it takes these what should be safe places and it subverts your expectations. So for the first film, we have an apartment complex. Second film with Rabid, you know, it's just being out in the open, you know, throughout your city. This, I mean, it can happen anywhere, whether you're going
house, classroom,
school.
Yeah.
That classroom scene, like how long it goes on that all the kids just stare.
Yeah, the kids were great in it.
Like, is that kid running to go get somebody, or was he finally like, yo?
Yeah, he's like, I'm getting the hell out of here.
I forgot what he said, because he immediately goes up to you know, to the nearest adult, and it's the main guy, and I forgot what he says. He says something so, oh crap, I forgot what the kid says to the adult, but he says something so. And this is where I was going to get into, like, Cronenberg's dialogue is not talked about enough. I love how characters talk in his movies, and The Brood really shines with it. The way people talk about themselves, and I don't know, there's such a weird analytical. Everyone's so like analyzing of everything and everyone else around them in the movies. That I don't know. It's just so, I forgot what the kid says, but the kid says something so like, just like it's scary to like be a kid and see that happen, and the way the kid describes what's happening is just like, oh my God, so vivid.
It felt
Oh.
so genuine.
Yeah.
Like I don't
Yeah.
know what exactly went into, pulling off that scene, but in something so shocking happening, and then all of a sudden, like, everybody runs and one of the kids has a tourniquet and the other kid knows CPR, it's like they're all just kind of standing there like,
You're in shock.
Yeah.
oh my God, and then yelling. And yeah, I mean, that was, something very much from just like the performance of this movie. And then, yeah, I like but like Harrison, kind of mentioned earlier with like the personable or the personal mobility.
Mhm.
I don't fucking know the how personal these movies feel though, and like kind of touching on like with this especially, I think was where he's just attacking these things that are supposed to feel comfortable and are supposed to be okay, and
100%.
like you being a little kid and seeing something as grotesque as happens in that school scene, I'm like, damn, I'm surprised they pulled that off. Like, actually, for that to be like involved in the release,
Well,
that felt pretty tough.
and I wanted to get your guys' feedback on it because this is a film that came out same year as Alien, Phantasm, Amityville Horror. I mean, where do you guys think that this lands when we're talking about 1979 and the films that were coming out around this time? Is this one of the more memorable ones that you guys would pick out from that specific year?
I would.
I would
yeah.
say this is better than any of the other ones you just mentioned.
Oh,
Whoa, better than Phantasm? That's crazy.
Listen, dude, do we? I mean,
I do love
listen,
Phantasm.
let's leave that for another
Yeah.
night, doggy.
Oh,
I don't
boy.
have too long. I actually prefer the Phantasm sequels over the original movie.
Phantasm
wanna
2
talk.
rules. I'll
Dude,
agree with that.
I love
Come on,
Phantasm.
what is it? Phantasm 3 where they have to like make the weapons and shit?
Yeah.
Cut it out.
It's 3, no, 4's
Yeah.
Ravager.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, no, not that. Like 2. Okay, let's just say 2 and 3. I prefer. I think probably
Yeah.
2.
2 rules, man. I just love it.
Okay, tourist trap, prophecy, the visitor.
Oh, prophecy. That
Yeah.
it scared the
Tourist
shit
Trap's
out of
good.
me with that one. Oh my god.
Yeah, Zombies
Zombie
Flesh
Oh,
Eaters. Also
come
comes
on,
out.
man.
Kick ass.
If there's a film that's probably like top tier for me, it probably would be Zombie.
Brood for
Yeah.
me was because I'll call it my college era, and maybe when you get to college, you're kind of in your film bro era, and this is
Yeah,
I've
yep.
already seen The Fly, I've already seen Scanners. It's like, well, now it's time to watch the other Cronenbergs. And college is when I watched Videodrome and Brood. I did Videodrome first because everyone knows Videodrome, and Brood was. So this was my first time rewatching it 2 or 3 weeks ago since college, but it's another one
Okay.
just so vivid to me. With how long ago college was, I really enjoyed rewatching this for the first time in a long time. Forgot how much I really liked it.
Well, this one definitely leaves a lasting impression when you do see it. The payoff's definitely worth it. It's a film that, like we said, if you're trying to get into Cronenberg and you're looking for something that's a little bit more accessible and looking for something that's a little bit deeper than, I would say, probably a lot of the other horror films that were coming out around that same time. I mean, this is definitely it. But speaking of another one that definitely goes a little bit deeper, I've got none other than Scanners. Next
The
It
VHS
is.
copy.
Yeah, where'd you get that VHS copy from?
This was back at like when I was going to, well,
I
now
thought you got it for me. Never mind.
no, I wish, man. I
Oh,
wish.
you got one for me. Oh shit.
No, man, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm
Listen,
sorry.
but if you don't have
damn.
Scanners, go check out Static Tape to go pick it up.
True. I was. I thought that. I thought I got that. For you. Damn
No,
it. What movie am I
man.
thinking of then? You bought a
I think
handful for you, but
I think I got the Dead Zone from you. I'm pretty sure.
okay.
Yeah.
At least that was funny. Wow.
Yeah.
What a
Yeah,
good
there
moment
you
to
clip
capture.
that.
Sorry, Harrison.
That's fine. I got myself into that.
No, I used to just strictly at the time I was getting these for conventions and I would just bring them with me, something easy to sign. This one I got signed by Michael Ironside, so that was
That's so cool.
kind of crazy to meet him all these years later. But okay, so Scanners, probably one of the more recognizable films that he's done. Where does this one fall for you guys? Like, you know, do you guys have vivid memories of checking this out? Was this a film that lived up to your expectations?
I love this movie.
Yeah.
Like, truly, truly love this movie. I think it's probably, I already, let the cat out of the bag of how much I love Videodrome, but this is a close second for me from his filmography, man. I mean, iconic. Everybody is going to talk about the opening scene, or just even, get out of my head. But it is such a fun, like, it is a sci-fi movie first. I think it does not fit completely within the horror realm, and also is, like, shockingly, sort of like a subject that can be talked about now, of like the surveillance and how much it's like ideas of, like, surveilling what you're thinking, especially with, as we enter an era where there's more and more, like, artificial intelligence that is not just like surveilling us through our purchases, and but is getting, at this point, truly surveilling every movement that we do through our phones and technology. They didn't need to have, what is it, like 237 scanners on Earth to do it. They have, like, data centers around every corner of the Earth at this point to do so.
We got Eli joining us. What's up, Eli? He said Scanners is killer.
True.
Yeah.
Really?
It's definitely up there. I would say that's probably one of the more memorable films that Cronenberg did. In a lot of ways, I don't know, right or wrong, it always reminded me of Cronenberg's take on the X-Men. I don't know why. Like, that's what I always associated it with. Like,
I mean, there is, like a Professor Xavier versus a Magneto aspect to it.
yes.
For sure.
Yep. And this one, I mean, obviously outside the head explosion scene, I love this movie, but I believe, if I recall, there was some production issues during the filming for this, and it feels like towards the end of the film, it feels like it wraps things up very abruptly and quickly, and that's like the one thing that I always noticed about this film that just felt like a little disjointed, but I can't help but love it all the same. And for those of you guys who haven't had a chance to check this out, scanners, they look like ordinary people, but inside their minds burns a power that can kill. So, gifted with the ability to read and control thoughts, the scanners are living weapons, hunted and used by those who fear them. When one scanner goes rogue, exploding heads are only the beginning. Scanners is Cronenberg's explosive blend of psychic warfare and cold corporate conspiracy, where the battle is fought in the mind and the fallout is deadly. Now, with that being said, do you guys feel like this movie lived up to your expectations then?
Yeah, this was so hyped up for me, for my dad. I don't remember because my dad had a big Laserdisc collection and
Okay.
VHS and DVD. I know. I don't think this one was a Laserdisc that he had, but this was one that he, like, we're sitting down. You're watching Scanners, and yeah, it did live up to the hype that he gave it.
Where does this one fall for you guys? I mean, do you guys consider this up there as far as, like, out of his films? Do you guys rewatch this one as often as compared to some of the other ones we talked about tonight?
Yeah, I truly think it's one of his best, man. Like
Maybe
I said,
the most No, I think Fly is the most rewatchable one, but this is definitely, like, really rewatchable and never boring.
No.
well, it fits well within this, like, era of, like, sort of flashy sci-fi movies from the 80s. Like, I think especially with sort of the elements and what the film is discussing too, with, like, the privatization of a police force, and when it, like, sort of control becomes corporate and profit. I mean, like, it's such a fun sort of double feature to do with RoboCop, which touches
Okay,
on
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
very similar grounds of, what happens when a, police force becomes a police force for profit.
Harrison, we got it. We got an idea. Double feature taking place at Stag Tape.
Oh, we'll get there.
Now, how do you guys feel like Scanners builds tension with the concept of telepathy and mind control? Do you feel like it was effective with this film?
Within the first 10 minutes, yeah.
Some people might. I think similar to how The Thing got some complaints from early critics of like, oh, you see the monster right away, they gave too much right away.
Yeah.
I think there was some similar like, oh, they gave too much right away. But to me, it's like, no, you know what they're capable of.
Yeah.
At that point, and that's not even really, again, what Kyle's going about with the surveillance, the private. That's not really the real big global threat. Is that it is the mind reading and the surveillance of people that is the really big threat to that you're supposed to focus on a bit more.
Yeah, no one's safe.
Yeah, no one's safe, and it just is such a great beginning. Really, just again, what makes movies so good in a beginning like that, of the practical effects to just what it builds up to the rest of the movie. How are you not hooked the rest of the movie after that?
Oh, it's incredible. Now, how did you guys feel like Cronenberg makes our psychic powers feel like a physical and psychological threat?
Well, like, he does a good job showing that, like, even the scanners are kind of tortured by their own power. I mean, Revok is, like, he's a former mental patient. The guy he goes and visits that eventually gets killed, too, like, trying to tell him it's like, regardless of them having these grandiose powers, there's powers even higher than them that are using them to eventually engage in war, ostensibly, both of the public, and then they start talking about, it's like, oh, we can, like, export this to, the future wars will be fought in the mind. And they're cogs inside of this machine that's continuing, which is sort of Revok's motivation.
Yeah, I that is perfectly said. I have nothing to add to that.
Listen, let me tell you, with this one, this is going to be another one that's not going to be popular. I watched it. I don't know how long ago it was. The opening sequence, obviously is like amazing, and I just remember the rest of the movie like, okay.
Yeah,
I can see that.
It is probably his most talk-heavy movie, oddly.
Okay.
Despite it being known for what it's known for, it is probably his most talk-heavy.
Eric, I'm waiting for you to pivot so we can talk about Scanner Cop.
Brother, this is where this is going. I was just going to say, Scanners is fine, but for a world for me to exist in and there be no Scanner Cop, I don't want to exist.
Eric would not be who he is without Scanner Cop.
And maybe not even Scanner Cop 2, if we can talk about an even greater sequel. Dude.
Oh my God.
Hell yeah.
Scanners is fine. And I'm okay with it existing as long as I get a Scanner Cop. That's where I'm at.
Awesome.
God help all of us.
But I will be honest. Out of this conversation and out of the list of movies, I wanted to utilize this conversation to be sold on to go back and watch Scanners again, which your guys' dialogue has done so. And I will go back and I will check this one out. That was the only movie that I purposely did not watch because I just wanted to have a hype built, behind it. And you guys have done that. Now, whether or not it's going to surpass Scanner Cop, probably not. But
you can't go into it with that mindset.
Steve, I'm going into it with the mindset that I've seen The Fly first.
I know that's the problem, though. Everything's I don't know. I mean,
fair. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what to tell you. That's why all this other shit. That's why I went into Dead Ringers, and I'm like, what am I? This is the Red Shoe Diaries.
Dude.
This is early 2000s Showtime softcore porno. This is dumb.
Damn, dude.
It's not dumb, actually. The Dead Ringers isn't dumb. I shouldn't go that far, but it's pretty close.
You just trolled Kyle.
Yeah, well, here we are.
Well,
I told you it was going to come out. I'm settling myself.
It's okay.
But every once in a while it's going to pop
Harrison's the voice of reason. I can feel it.
I'm just amazed that we're talking David Cronenberg today, and we've brought up Children of the Corn and Bloodshack / The Trooper, and now we're talking about the Red Shoe Diaries. That's insane.
Yeah. Sorry.
Called
Yeah.
Take.
Now, how did you guys feel like Michael Ironside's Daryl Revick embodies both menace and charisma in this film? Did you feel like it worked for you guys? Like, he's obviously, the villain in this film. Did his performance work for you as far as like what he was trying to get
He
across?
rules.
Yeah.
Ironside rules. He's so awesome.
Yeah, man. He's the fucking king, man. I mean, between like he's such a good fucking actor. I mean, between even stuff he kind of sucks in, he's good too.
Man. Yeah, he's definite. I can't imagine anyone else playing Revick. He just
No,
works
yeah,
in the role. I don't know. It's a very interesting cast because Stephen Lack, definitely a very stark contrast in performance. He feels like very distant, and whether that was intentional or not, I think you got Michael Ironside on one side where he's just so over the top and bringing his A game, and then you have, kind of on the other side of it, like opposite of him, Stephen Lack is Cameron Vale. He almost feels like kind of like soulless. I don't know. It's just very, very interesting takes on each of their own scanner characters. But how did you guys feel like the infamous head explosion scene? Did that set a new standard for practical effects in horror, especially at the time?
it's 81, right?
Yes.
God, I mean, so that same year you have Howling, which is a great werewolf transformation. 80 and 81 in general. God damn, there's just,
Oh, it's
and
ridiculous.
even into 82 when you get to The Thing. Oh gosh,
Evil Dead, American
Evil
Werewolf in
Dead.
London.
Yeah, Megalodon also
Yeah.
has a great werewolf transformation.
Mm.
I mean, it's definitely up there, but yeah, looking back with all what we know now,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, it's hard to like. I feel like when you talk about it, it's definitely going to be in the top 10 of mentions for early 80s practical awesome scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Iconic.
we're also forgetting in 19. The Beast also comes out, which I would say
What is it?
is like
The Beyond.
The Beast
Oh,
also is
100%.
Yeah.
I think at that point it's like, I mean, this two
Yeah.
very different films. Not special effects. Where Fulci's is more dreamlike than this is like, more like practical in a sense of like, it's not supposed to be like, oh, it's kind of esoteric and weird. Like it's just within the fiction of what we're watching. I mean, yeah, I still will point to, and I keep bringing it up because it is so iconic, but that head explosion is still one of the best like head exploding squibs I've ever
I
seen in
think
a movie.
of that and Maniac. Maniac's the other one that I think
Maniac's
of.
got a great one as well.
Oh my god. I remember when the first time I saw that, I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna be sick.
So
Now in scanners,
Are we talking about
in scanners though?
scene?
Oh, go ahead.
No. I was saying for Maniac, are we talking about the Tom
Yes.
Savini
Oh
scene?
yeah.
Yeah, that scene is pretty good.
In scanners though, like beyond, because like I say, like my memory now does not hold as far as anything within this movie other than that opening sequence. Are
Yeah.
there other cool sequences like further into the movie of practical effects, or is that like the main thing where it becomes a different type of horror further in?
Would you guys say the ending? I mean, the ending, like where it's just like they're
with a bursting of
they're, like,
fire and stuff.
bursting at fire, melting.
Yeah. I like that one's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I guess if I'm trying to sell you back onto the movie, Eric, there is a gap between the two big set pieces.
But isn't that crazy? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like when you have something so insane like that opening, it's like, holy shit, this is going to be the best movie of all time. And then you follow it by nothing, and you're like, I'm not
I know what you mean. You're right.
But I'm just saying, like,
I absolutely agree
on
with
paper and explaining to a friend, it's like you have the most iconic, insane scene, possibly top 10 of all time.
I think
and
that's
then
why
nothing until the very end.
Yeah, I think that's why this one is is talked about as much as it is because it is mostly known for the like beginning and the end scenes, but yet it does have uh, such a modern and even today important discussion about against surveillance
Yeah.
and spying and trust and regular people versus government type thing, and the usage of people and using people. That I think that's what makes this one nice. But I guess I also want to ask because Scanners, I haven't seen the Brian De Palma. Was it Fury or oh gosh, Brian De Palma had like a body explosion in the 70s. What's that movie? Fury, not Fury. It starts with an F. It's a,
Now I'm wondering.
which one?
Movie, the Fury, the
I think so.
1978
Brian De
one.
Palma, right?
Oh yeah, The Fury.
That is it. Okay, that's what I thought. That's a similar story of like telekinesis. I have not seen that one yet. And
Don't
I
mind
know
checking
that
that out.
there's some credit that goes to the Fury for Scanners for somewhat similar plot and also cool body explosion stuff.
Damn.
Supposedly, it's one I wanted to watch for a while, and I was probably going to do it sometime after this discussion because I knew we'd be talking Scanners. So
A friend of mine from Film Society has been recommending that to me because they described it as neo noir scanner,
Oh.
yeah.
which I was like, it's cool.
Yeah.
The Criterion package, when you read the booklet for the Criterion Scanners, it brings up the De Palma movie, and that's kind of how that got on my radar. I still just haven't watched it, and I need to. I don't know where to watch it.
Well, can you?
I have.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, I was going to ask you guys, can you like agree though that I think for this film, the sci-fi elements definitely take the driver's seat when it comes to what this film is more known for. I think it's definitely a unique entry in his filmography compared to some of the other ones we talked about. And I think that's what makes it more engaging. It's not so much like the body horror aspect, as nice as that is, and there's like key sequences that happen in it, but it's like kind of like almost like a sci-fi like thriller in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's big scale consequences.
Yes.
Which when we'll talk about The Fly, I'll get into where the stuff I like the most about Cronenberg, which is like the small, personal, family scale consequences is like the most engaging stuff for me. But this, yeah, definitely gets more into large world scale conflict. Yeah.
And do you guys feel like, okay, so with Scanners, did you guys feel like this influenced later sci-fi and horror films about psychic abilities? Because it felt like during this time there was like a really big like push for this in books and film. I mean, you have like Carrie and Firestarter, and I know that there's countless other ones that were all coming out around the same time that kind of revolved around either pyrokinesis or psychokinesis abilities. What do you guys think?
I think it's definitely the one that I guess now, 40 years later, has a lot more. Maybe this and Carrie have the most attention these days.
Oh, for sure.
But I think Carrie definitely carried that weight for a while, even after Scanners. But Scanners, I think Scanners kind of probably took more attention from like the weirdos like us back in the day than it did, because like Carrie was like even like an Academy darling,
Mhm.
and a Stephen King book. Where I think this one, I mean, with home video in 1980 booming and beginning, I think that's probably a lot of where Scanners gets a lot of its love is from the home video market.
Yeah, I think to that point too. I mean, like I talk about this pretty frequently with how much like foreign and import film that I enjoy too. But I think he's still, regardless of it being an English movie, or fully in English, that it's still like foreign to people, and he's just this weirdo from Canada.
Now, do you guys feel like, let's just say, if you saw this in the video store, do you feel like that this VHS would stand out in the horror or sci-fi section of your local video store? If you
It
saw
always did for me.
It always did, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know a cover for Scanners that doesn't use the Michael Ironside, like, going full white eye mode, about ready to pop. You know,
Yeah.
I've only seen that used in some variation of every cover.
Mm-hmm.
I alternative covers in the past of the guy's head exploding.
Okay.
Oh, really?
I've
Okay.
never seen one of those. That's
No.
I don't
cool.
think I've ever seen that. No.
Seen it like once or twice. I've seen a cover of it where it is just the guy's head exploding.
God.
That's cool.
Like
I think
Whoa.
if I didn't know anything about the film, I think I'd be like almost intimidated to check it out based on just that.
Yeah.
And how do you guys feel like Scanners would compare to other Cronenberg titles on the rental shelf?
Doesn't.
Oh, I mean, art. It's going to grab your attention.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
100%.
this or The Fly are the one people watch first.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
if I was to get someone into Cronenberg, I would pick either this or The Fly.
Oh, these are I can't argue with that. Now, this one I feel like is another one that we could have in the conversation with it being more accessible, and that's none other than The Dead Zone. So this one I actually did get from Static Tape. So
Oh, there we go. Okay.
yes,
There we
yes.
go.
So we were just off by one.
It's not as it's not as cool as Scanners, but
No, it's I mean it's got its own special.
Depends on who you're asking.
Yeah, I've got my own
Yeah,
special
I think
affinity
okay.
for this.
I'm excited
this,
for this then. Ooh,
Okay, so what is it about this movie that stands out to you guys? Is this a film that you guys got into, like, you know, earlier on when you were getting into horror? Where was this film for you? Like, what memories do you guys have associated with it?
I'll start by saying this is another first time watch, and I watched it say Sunday. I watched it maybe a week ago for the first time. It was another one I waited on.
Okay.
For whatever reason, I just never got to it, and I finally did for this.
This is one that I watched probably when I was like 16 or 17. Maybe earlier than that, because I have a distinct memory of watching this around Halloween time on USA Network. May it forever rest in peace.
Yeah.
This was something I just recently had checked out, and I think was like the form of me truly feeling like, okay, I am a fucking complete simpleton. Like, I go into something and, you know, like, I'm not tossed into 17 different layers of how I'm supposed to feel versus what the director is telling me to feel versus how I'm supposed, you know. It is a pretty straightforward story. It's, you know, I think probably the least Cronenberg thing that he has. I don't know if you could agree with, because even, you know, when I think of like The Brood, you know, there's that ending sequence. When you have The Dead Zone, it almost feels like it's like David Cronenberg made this. And I remember there was certain sequences where I've definitely seen parts of it on TV, whether it was Marathon, whether it was October, you know, whatever. But as far as like sitting down and like watching front to back, I was like, damn. And, you know, like Christopher Walken's performance in this is still kind of weird. Like, it just, I don't know if I believe, like, it almost feels like it's like a AI enhanced movie or something, where it's like Christopher Walken wasn't actually in this movie. They've just overdubbed his voice onto certain sequences of it. And it's like, watching it again, it's pretty wild, but it's a good movie. I love this, man. I thought it was great.
Okay.
I feel like this is one that felt the least like a Cronenberg film. It feels more like, you know, obviously you're combining the elements of Stephen King, and I think that I think
it feels very Stephen King to me.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like and you guys know, I'm sure you guys have seen a number of like Stephen King adaptations. They have a very distinct feel to most of them, and
Mhm.
this definitely kind of falls in with a lot of those.
But now, and not to cut you off, but now
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is something I guess that, like, Harrison kind of pointed out earlier with the whole aspect of like David Cronenberg's dialogue and with his
Mhm.
delivery. And, I mean, we all know that there's Stephen King stories that completely do not land. And maybe
More
that's like a compliment, from like David Cronenberg as far as like transforming this story into this. Maybe, had somebody else taken a jab at this, it wouldn't have been as effective.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious what the book does. This is very okay of a movie to me. I've got my issues, but similar to what I like the most about Stephen King movies is the small scale, really personal movie. Shawshank, Green Mile, Stand by Me, even Christine.
Yeah.
This one I feel like has a hard time grasping. I don't know. There's oddly not a lot for Christopher Walken to do. I don't know. There's just a lack of something for his character.
Well, the thing is too is that this was a movie that like Cronenberg didn't have a hand in writing the script
Okay.
at all. So, it doesn't have his personality
No.
bled into the character. And he's directing the actors for sure and does a good job and is directing the camera and and making sure that it still speaks to him as a director, but it's still, I mean, it is a King work through and through, and it
Yeah.
feels that way. It's also a movie that made me curious if the next time I go to Michigan's Adventure, if I would get psychic powers from it.
Yeah. Plot
Yeah.
A just ends, and then plot B starts, and then ends, and then plot C starts, and then ends. And I don't know.
It's
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I wouldn't say and I definitely don't want to diminish the film from someone checking it out. It's just, if like I said, it feels the less, or like the not the less, the least Cronenberg
Mhm.
out of all of his films. And when I watch it, when I'm going through like Stephen King adaptations, I can appreciate it for what it is. But if I'm binging a bunch of Cronenberg films like I did for, us doing a deep dive on his earlier work, um, this is one that it's good to at least check out, but I just
Mhm.
found myself like not enamored with it the way that I am with a lot of his other films, if that makes sense.
this will be the movie I'm going to say the meanest thing about
Oh
this whole
shit.
stream. Which, much like how a Stephen King book is a book you would read on a plane and go, huh, that killed 2 hours. The Dead is the movie you would watch on a plane and went, well, great, I made it to my destination. I guess I watched that.
Damn.
I think the biggest problem for me with it was I watched this between Shivers and Rabid.
Oh.
So,
That's
which
Yeah.
like I don't know why that was the case.
Oh my
of the
God.
order I watched them in, but yeah. But even then, I don't know. I don't
That's
know.
tough. I mean, that's like a complete 180.
Yeah, it was literally flipping it back and forth. In a lot of ways. It just, I don't know. There's just not much of a hook. It's always he gonna try to win back his girlfriend? Is he gonna wait? Oh, I'm gonna solve the murders. Nope. Okay, the murders are solved. Oh, okay. Now you gotta save the world. Yeah.
Christopher Walken does ask the question I always ask when I'm drunk at a party, which is like, if you go back in time and shoot Hitler, would you do it?
I love when that was brought up. I thought that was cool.
I have to ask, how often does this come up?
You don't want to know.
Yeah, right. So
First time we met.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Well,
Jesus Christ.
Kyle.
So just to give you guys a quick rundown with this film. So after a near fatal accident, Johnny Smith awakens from a 5-year coma with a gift he never asked for: the power to see the future with a single touch. What begins as visions of everyday tragedies soon escalates into a chilling discovery that could change the course of history. The Dead Zone is Cronenberg's haunting tale of fate, fear, and the unbearable weight of knowing what's to come. And
See, that movie's badass. Like, it sounded badass.
I don't like. I
I
literally
think it
like
sounds
the
more
first half.
badass than it is.
Yeah,
Listen,
I love
okay.
the first half.
I think what I should have done was I should have written. Damn it, because Harrison said this. I should have written down the order that the movies that I watched and what it was, because
Oh.
maybe I was in such a mental of like, God damn it. Okay, I got this weirdo ass shit again. I sat through this one, and I sat through, and then I'm like, oh wow, a regular Kiss ABAC song.
Yeah.
You know, just a regular linear movie that I'm like, okay, I can just sit here and just be a vegetable and, you know, just not even think about this and have fun with this. And there it is.
Yeah.
So maybe that was part of, you know, like, oh yeah, this was fine. And maybe my brain was building it up. But I still had fun with it. I think I definitely have like an endearment for really any Stephen King, you know, even some of the shittier ones that he's had. Sleepwalkers, I don't know a whole lot of people that like that movie, and I have a lot of fun with that movie.
I do too.
Am I
That
wrong?
one is
No.
I will use the fun word with it.
I thought they were gonna say something else, but
Yeah, it's not.
No.
It's not. I mean, and it's not great, you know. But it's just for whatever reason. It's just,
I think
I've always had fun with it.
Okay.
there's definitely some and maybe I guess you could throw this in that same category. A lot of the Stephen King films, the adaptations they're very intimate. They're it's almost like it's a very like character driven story, kind of like this, and it feels like an extension of his books. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys like really read a lot of his older works, but man, there's a lot of world building, very detail oriented. And I agree. I don't think that always translates well with the adaptations, but I don't know how to explain it. Like a lot of Stephen King adaptations have a very distinct feel, and this is one of them.
It's well for me. For this one, it's when you think of the best Stephen King adaptations. Again, I'll include Christine. Some people may not include Christine, but that's a very I love Christine.
Yeah,
that's a very Carpenter movie. The Shining is very Kubrick. Carrie is very De Palma. There's most of his best stuff. The directors are pretty like you can tell who directed Stand By Me. You can tell who did Shawshank. You can just there's a lot of director personality in it. And Dead Zone, I don't think a lot of people would know Cronenberg did it.
No.
Maybe
even in
the poster. Yeah,
Stephen King.
Exactly. It looks like a book cover, you know, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But it just the first half I really liked, where it's the consequences of this gift. I was really hoping it would stay personal. You know, he doesn't want to deal with police. He doesn't want to. He's just so bitter that his life, 5 years, was just gone like that. His life is so different, and now he's like a freak slash, can do something about some things, maybe not. Learns all these horror. Maybe the book gets more into it of like seeing all these terrible things that people live through or do or whatnot. That's really tasking on somebody.
Yeah, the movie kind of touches on that. It's like a burden for him, where everybody people and I stopped a serial killer and I got shot for it.
It's just once we get done with that plot, though, we're kind of like, oh, now I gotta save the world, and I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know.
I guess.
I guess. I don't know. I wish it stayed more personal. You know, he loses his mom, and that's something he didn't see coming and predicting, and that doesn't help. You know, it's like that's like I don't know. There's a lot going on there, and the girlfriend, and now she's a mom and a wife to the mayor guy, and I thought it maybe have been more interesting of like, oh God, do I tell her that he's cheating or he's a terrible guy, and is that me just wanting her back, or is that me just like telling the truth and doing the right thing? That to me would have been a little more interesting than like, I gotta save the planet.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. Not to reduce it, but I guess. I don't know.
So, okay. So do you guys feel like the personal life angle to Johnny and his psychic visions, do you guys feel like that was handled well? Like, was it balanced throughout the movie?
I think in the second act of the film, it's handled well. I think Harrison hit the nail on the head where once it's like, you got to save the world, Johnny. Like, then I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And did the narrative make you question whether Johnny's visions were real or subjective experiences?
Oh,
I mean,
interpret it.
is he like a reliable narrator for the film?
That's an interesting aspect.
Really.
I never really thought of it that way. Again, and that might be because to me it felt like a Stephen King movie. Where it's like, I don't think there's any, is it an unreliable narrative? No, I think Stephen King's pretty direct of like, no, there is a clown, okay, etc. That there is an evil thing, and it is evil, or this kid has powers, and they are definitely powers. So I guess I never really had that thought.
Now, how do you guys feel like the Dead Zone comments on free will versus like fate, for example? I mean, we know that he has the ability to see the outcome for a lot of things that most of us wouldn't, right? How would you guys view that? I mean, do you feel like it enhances his experience as a result of him being able to see some of this stuff? Because I would argue, if anything, I mean, it reveals it's like a gift, but also a burden.
Yeah, I mean the kids falling in the ice is, again, great, but also it doesn't. I feel like the movie kind of forgets about that. Is another problem I kind of get into. Like even the mayor's like, oh fuck, he told me and he was right. But then the movie kind of just moves on, and he's still running for mayor. And then they shake hands, and now it's like, oh god, he's gonna blow up the world. I don't know. I feel like that could have been a great, like, small town thing that could have led to a bit. I don't know.
The movie, like it's three vignettes of this person. It's the tissue connect between. It sort of does. I mean, the first and second act are better. And like you're saying, it tells a smaller story where I'm like, oh, that's kind of fun, of like him realizing that you can change fate, that fate is not this predetermined thing. He doesn't see the consequences of it and does pay a price for like, all right, well, I solved the murder and now there's not going to be any more of the serial killer stalking around, but oh shit, now I'm even further crippled and less willing to the world outside because of it. Like, by the time we're in the third act, he's somewhat reclusive. He's not anymore. He's like, oh, I'll do like private tutoring, I think.
Teacher,
Yep. So like he tries to hide himself away more and more because he's like, he's like an aberration to most people. And even when he does reach out, ultimately with the kids going through the ice, he still treats like that's not going to happen.
Now, did you guys feel like the climax resolved the story's central questions, like, let's just say, about destiny or responsibility?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's so heavy-handed.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
I mean, I wish it was like a smaller scale, small town thing, like a little more with the ice and the kids, and maybe people don't believe him, and him versus like a Jaws kind of him versus the mayor. Kids are gonna die.
I like what you suggested earlier, that there's a more interesting way to do it, where his like visions and him being an unreliable narrator ultimately leads him to being wrong. He's just like through chance has been right because of his visions, and that's not what's actually happening. That's all perception on his part. Like there's a far more interesting story there. But him being a lone gunman to save the world is like probably it's not really like it. It doesn't feel real.
And then when the mayor has the baby shield himself, I thought that was like the most ridiculous. Like, oh my god! I was like, I know exactly what's gonna happen now. I wish it was a little more subtle. Of like, oh, he was supposed to take a picture with the baby, and then Chris Walken realized, oh, I can't shoot. There's a baby there, but then. There's like a weird moment of he notices Chris Walken with a gun, and then while the picture's being taken, it just happens to look like he's using the baby to shield himself by accident. But instead it's like he's very clearly like, he's like, oh my god,
that baby is definitely being used as a meat shield for sure.
Which is just a little more like perception nuance there. That's all. You just turned comically evil.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so and we touched on this a little bit earlier, but did you guys feel like The Dead Zone stands out compared to other King adaptations on let's just say on the rental shelves if we were at the video store?
Probably not.
Yeah.
That
Kind of a
cover,
bland cover.
beautiful. I really like that cover personally.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know what to believe.
I'm actually being genuine about this. I think it is an impactful and like really like from a design perspective, a nice cover.
It's got a cool font. I don't.
And do you guys was this one that do you guys remember seeing this at the video store? Like was there something that caught your eye about it? The cover, title, Stephen King's name on it?
No.
Never seen the video store.
And then lastly, was this a popular pick amongst friends or was it more of a personal late night discovery for you guys?
This
again,
just
recent. This was another first time watch for me. This one was,
happenstance for having unmonitored access to cable TV as a kid.
Yep.
And really watching this too, I think like as I'm thinking of all the kind of ridiculousness to this too, may it be the Stephen King aspect or may it be some of the portrayals, something about this feels very Nicolas Cage. And I don't know if that's just me, but there's just like certain aspects where I'm just like, this just feels like this like goofy I don't know, and now that I say that out loud, I'm trying to think of like what the connection would be. But
the
like
movie next, where Stephen,
it's just it just kind of feels like
him in the Cage in the walk and roll would just be him going, oh, whoa.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else here has seen the movie Next, where Nicolas Cage can see like 5 seconds into the future. Maybe that's where it is for you.
Oh, wait, is that something he's?
It is a real movie. Yeah, it's like
course,
2005 or 6 or something. I don't know. I saw that shit in theaters.
I will say to your audience, Steven, if they want another walk-in 80s movie where he acts like a complete fucking psychopath, check out Communion.
Okay. Hell yeah.
Which is based off of the book of the same name about UFO experiencers, but Walken took some certain artistic liberties with his portrayal of the main character and is insane in that entire film. Yeah, he I gotta remember Communion. Remember the guy that wrote the book originally. My friend just read it. Whitley Strieber.
Oh, okay.
Strieber was and told Walken, he was like, that's not how I acted. That's not the text of my book. We'll see about that.
So funny.
Damn.
Well, speaking of a film that maybe lands a little bit better than Communion, but I figured that this was the best way to end this tonight. And we've got none other than Videodrome.
Yes. One of the best movies ever made.
And real quickly, before we dive into this, so I'm sure you guys could speak on it. So obviously a lot of the films that we discussed tonight, so most of them have physical releases, whether it's like Blu-ray, 4K, VHS, whatever the case is. But I know that for The Brood and Scanners, they both have a 4K from Second Sight, which looks phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And then
4K?
Oh, they're stunning.
maybe like 2 or 3 months ago. Same
Yep.
with the Brood. They did the Brood with the scanners as well.
Highly recommend.
Whoa,
Yeah,
Highly
pretty
recommend.
I saw Scanners. I didn't see the Brood. I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to absolutely pick that up. Holy
Yeah.
moly.
hmm
And then Videodrome Arrow had a release a while back.
Mhm.
Another great 4K that I got earlier on. I have the Blu-ray Steelbook for Shivers. And then I'm trying to think. Oh, the Dead Zone has a 4K release from Scream Factory. And then Rabid. Does anyone own that?
I have the
I
Scream
thought
Factory
Scream
Rabbit.
Factory did Rabid.
Okay, that's the only one that I don't have in my collection. But
That was a one they did a while ago.
Yeah,
That might
2016,
be
I
Oh,
think.
out of
damn.
print at this point. I'd have to look that up.
So
Okay.
Is
It's
it?
still in
Okay.
print.
All right.
Rights to it. Kind of crazy that they have it. The scan's good. It's a little rough, but again, it's a movie from
Mhm.
'77, so like, gotta be without blemishes. It's the best assets that they have. For them to be able to, and like, you know, it's Shout Factory. Their scans are good.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Especially early stuff.
I would have so.
Yep.
What is the likelihood that we get Shivers or Rabid? Would you guys want to see that in 4K, or do you feel like that's even necessary at this point? I mean, the reason I ask this is just
Rabid.
because with Second Sight, you know, the door being open for that, or even let's just say with Scream Factory, maybe doing a 4K restoration. Would you guys want to see that?
Yeah.
I feel like a DVD of both of those movies. I don't think that there's a whole lot of darks. I'm not being funny. I
Sure.
feel
No,
it's
no.
you know, when there's something like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, for instance, when I think back to that, as anti as I am going anything further past like a DVD, every once in a while, like the very dark scenes of that, I'm like, it'd be kind of cool to see a little bit more illumination. A movie like Shivers, a movie like Rabid, like I want that as grimy as I
that
can
film
get
grain.
it. I don't, you know, like, I mean, Vinegar Syndrome, I guess, does like a decent job with like still maintaining, you know, the integrity of the original feel.
I would agree.
I feel like when people, you know, originally discover, you know, paying $40, $50 for a disc and popping that in for the first time, it's kind of shocking. Like, I think The Suckling was the first movie that I got, and I was like, what the fuck did I just pay $40 for? This looks like shit. But then I'm like, oh,
Yeah, well,
like, it's a lot more polished. It's a lot more, you know, it's not as grimy. There's still that, you know, like that original integrity to it. When I think of Shivers or Rabid, like, I think a DVD copy of something like that is like perfectly fine.
Yeah,
Other than Second Sight doing something, you know, with like having the hard boxes, having the artwork, that would really be the biggest draw to like either of those. But like a scan doesn't really do anything for me.
It's funny you bring up Texas Chainsaw, which we all know is 16 millimeter. So, you know, like, if you want, yeah, it looks beautiful. I just looked up real quick because I was like, you know, I think I like the Scanner Rabbit being a little bit rough. I was like, oh, well, you know, Shivers had to be a 16 millimeter movie, right? I just looked up, it's a 35 millimeter film, which means that there's a camera negative out there that looks fucking gorgeous.
Wow.
I mean, I'm just curious because I can't help but wonder if, you know, they obviously, I mean, especially with Second Sight, I mean, the amount of love that went into both of those releases. I don't know if Shivers or Rabid are films that they would maybe pursue, but I can't help but wonder for a film like The Fly, for example. Fucking forget about it. If they came out with The Fly, like that day one purchase, day one. Yeah,
sure.
just
I want a cool release of that. So bad.
my God. And we've gotten everything else around it. I mean, we've gotten Naked Lunch and my gosh, Dead Ringers is one that I feel like we're missing as well. But
I think Dead Ringers got a recent release.
Dead Ringers did?
Dude, I wish.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised. They're releasing fucking Iced got a Blu-ray for God's sake. So yeah, you know.
That has a special place in my collection.
These days.
Yeah.
That you individually sold all three of us, you fucking bastard, Harrison.
I tried to tell you it's very okay.
Oh, it's fun. Don't get me wrong. I'm not mad.
Okay, all right.
For
At least
it.
you
I'm
know.
not. Yeah, no. It was fun for sure.
I was over at the Blu-ray.com forums watching the drama surrounding that years ago too.
Oh,
Was
Back
that
when
Code
Scorpion
Red or Scorpion was going to do it? Okay,
Gonna
yeah,
release
and then
it.
they didn't. So
Yeah, they did release the Obama.
Damn, I remember like with Iced and Jade was another one that I remember hearing about for the longest time.
oh.
With that getting a release, like it was just talked about forever, and then
hmm
I don't know, just it's
I,
crazy.
I don't know why people went crazy for Jade, man.
Yeah.
That's like um out of all of the William Friedkin movies, that's like one you can skip in his filmography.
Mm.
It's crazy to think that it's like this is the man that made
I love
Cruising
Cruiser.
and
yeah.
Booster, and then it's like also I made Jade. I'm like, ugh.
Well, as far as probably a film that's better than Jade, I would have to say. So, Videodrome, for those of you guys not familiar with this movie, so television isn't just entertainment, or is just entertainment until it isn't. So, when a sleazy cable programmer stumbles onto a mysterious broadcast called Videodrome, he uncovers a signal that doesn't just corrupt the mind, it reshapes the flesh. Oh my gosh, hallucinations. Oh my god. Okay, bleed into reality, desire warps into violence, and the screen becomes a gateway to something far darker. Videodrome is Cronenberg's nightmare transmission. Long live the new flesh. I feel like the coffee's wearing off. I can't say certain words right now. So we're gonna ride this out strong. So I gotta ask you guys. So how does Videodrome blur the line between reality and hallucination? I feel like I'm fucking hallucinating right now.
So sorry, that's funny. There's something about Videodrome, and I want to make sure I put the words to this correctly. That Videodrome blurs the lines not only like between hallucination and reality, but blurs the lines of like you as the viewer
Yep.
watching the movie too. That there is a meta commentary there of like desire to see these like prurient or violent images and how it malforms you, like society malforms you and desensitizes you, although there's like a bit more science to that, like engaging with violent media does not inherently make you a violent person. That said, that in the text of the movie, Max Wren is pirating the Videodrome signal, which is like ostensibly a snuff film. But you as the viewer are also kind of bled into that world because you want to continue to see this pirated signal too. You are engaging with his entire body of work of art up until this point too that is doing the same thing. And it is like both pointed at society as a whole, but it's also pointed back to you as a viewer engaging with Cronenberg's artwork and being like, well, you want to see this just as much as I created.
It's a very voyeuristic film where I think in a lot of ways it almost challenges like how far we can go when it comes to like how much is enough, right? So, Videodrome obviously pushes the limits of like, whether sexual desires or, like the violence aspect of it. I would say it explores like the darkest corners of our mind. And in a lot of ways, I think we could also apply this, and especially when this film came out. But think about a lot of the horror movies that were coming out around that time, where it's like, they were definitely pushing the envelope, and even up until now, like, I mean, you could just as easily go on the internet, and you could definitely go down the rabbit hole when it comes to the dark web, or even on Reddit, for example. Um, there's just a lot of like crazy things you can look at, and again, it's just like how far are you willing to take it? And I think that this is like, it's Cronenberg's take on that, but it just spirals out of control so quickly. I love this movie. Like this movie is just
It's awesome.
fucking insane.
Yeah, this is definitely this is like when I watched in college because it's like a perfect like your college phase movie. And
Yeah.
it's I feel it's ahead of its time because you're right. A lot of the movies that are coming out around its time, this is 84, 5?
Yeah, I
5, I
believe
think.
So yeah, I mean we're well into just the slew of slashers and all that going on right now.
Oh, it was 83. My bad.
83. It's still
Yep.
right in the middle of the slasher craze and all that early 80s gore stuff. And I feel like it wasn't really until the 90s that we start getting to see movies kind of not only like kind of clapping back at audiences, like criticizing and analyzing what audiences clearly crave and are obsessed with. Probably like a good double feature would be Funny Games with
Oh,
this
yeah?
movie.
Yeah.
Very audience analysis movies for sure. Very challenging for an audience because it is just it's what you want to see clearly. Yeah.
I mean, Cronenberg even like again, it's melding of, as I said at the beginning, as this discussion of, exemplifies like you as the audience are enticed to see more, but then should feel disgust
Oh,
at the same
absolutely.
time. You
They
should
do.
feel by what you're doing. Um, and like I think it's interesting too, Harrison. You mentioned it's like your college movie, and it definitely for me too, like is when I finally move out with my parents, I'm like, oh, I have money for the first time of my own. I'm gonna spend it all on movies. And I remember like all the stinky dudes I was living with were like, we're gonna watch Freddy versus Jason, and then I would be like, no, we're watching fucking
Hell yeah.
Videodrome. Like, like we're gonna watch something that's gonna like you guys are gonna hate probably.
That was
But it's gonna make you think differently afterwards of like what horror can be. And like my super pedantic joke I always make about Videodrome too is that it's a progenitor to the found footage genre.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely do that. Yeah.
Yeah, did you guys feel like the slow descent into almost like media induced paranoia kept you guys engaged when watching this for the first time, or did it make you more uncomfortable than anything?
I was engaged because I wasn't comfortable.
Like,
I mean, even the
Yeah.
opening scene with the TV just staring at you,
Mhm.
it's immediately grabs you and is luring you really because the slow pan to the TV. Yeah.
well, I mean, it's another example of Cronenberg, media, a reflection of the time of the 80s of like, it's this expansive technology and like more affordability and like, ability to actually have technological advancement in the home, like mirrors our reality now of like, how close are we to somebody, saying, well, long live the new flesh, and to the reports of like AI induced psychosis that people are having, befriending
Oh, it's
ChatGPT and then
insane.
believing that it's great. It's like it's a epidemia that we don't have a description for because it hasn't existed, and it's rapidly replicating itself over and over and making people believe that they're like new prophets to a technological god that thinks they're special.
And it's crazy though, because again, this film feels like it's so ahead of its time with the messages that it was trying to convey, whether it's for technology or like what we're seeing through the media, like how far we can really explore things. It's almost like in a lot of ways, I mean, this film feels like you're looking away from a car accident, but we can't help but want to look and take a peek at like what's, the carnage of like what actually happened. And now I have to ask you guys, like, how effective do you feel like this film's mix of body horror and psychological horror is?
It's up there. It's definitely one you remember. I mean, the gun forming, the sticking the beta tape inside him. It just there's so much imagery that is so memorable in this, and it just again the practical effects. It's so much better than anything that if Videodrome got made today, it would look terrible with CGI. You want that goopy. I don't know.
I
Even like the
agree.
TV breathing and stuff. Like, oh my god, that looks so awesome.
Cool of the entire movie is when it starts mimicking his breaths that he's taking
Yeah.
too.
So subtle. Yeah.
Yeah, James Woods. I mean, regardless of how he's popping up in the news these days, what an incredible! Oh yeah, he don't look at his Twitter.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar, I guess.
I didn't know.
We got really cool opinions these days. But what a commanding performance of him as Max Rent as
Yeah.
well, man. I mean,
Mm.
just like his diction, ability to, sort of take control of the scene, and like he can flip it on like a switch of like being calm and in control, and then completely fucking
Oh,
crazy.
even the scene, like I'm the one, if we're talking about a scene that really sticks out to me in this movie, is the scene where who is it? Actor Leslie Carlson, uh
Mhm.
he's like basically tumoring out after he gets like
Yeah.
basically shot at. And I'm like, I remember the first
Yeah.
time watching that, I'm like, oh, that's like fucking horrific looking. I mean, it's pretty visceral.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's worse than getting shot. I mean, how do you make a gun more scary? Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. Well, okay, so we were talking about James Woods and his portrayal as Max Wren. How do you guys feel like this embodies, like, it feels like a mix of like curiosity, obsession, and in a lot of ways it's almost like moral ambiguity with, kind of tiptoeing that fine line. Did you guys feel like that worked for this movie?
Yeah. I mean, like, it's weird how many times that the movie makes you passenger to its own events, that like you're not as like you don't really realize what's going on, and even its ambiguity of its ending makes you feel that way too. Of that, like, okay, so the Videodrome is like this. It's from the Philippines, and it's this
Mhm.
murder. It's a live murder execution show. Actually, it's shot here in Boston. Actually, it's part of this like government program to like weed out the people who are like too sexually devious and too violent.
But
But also,
also,
you can be
yeah.
reprogrammed to fight against them because they're trying to do like eugenics and control the planet. And like by the end of it, you're just as tired as Max is, which is ultimately, in like my interpretation of the film, is like he's just so done and tired of this back and forth and being caught up in this conspiracy. He's like, well, fuck
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And how did you guys feel like Videodrome pushes the boundaries of body horror compared to a lot of the other Cronenberg, or like his earlier works that we were discussing earlier?
This is the kind of the one, because like a lot of the body horror happens to in his previous films, like other people, but this one is like James Woods is like suffering the whole movie. He is like he's just deforming slowly the whole movie, and really not till The Fly do we get like the main character just getting taken over like this. He's slowly not in control of himself, and all these other things. This is kind of definitely for a good reason. This is the one that, like, Scanners got people to notice him, and then this movie probably, or sorry, The Brood and Scanners got people to notice him, but like this definitely is where he started to really set himself apart, I'd say.
Absolutely.
I forget if it's this or Scanners is the movie it might be. Well, let me think of this timeline here.
I wonder, Scanners might have been like one of his few commercial successes.
It was this. He turned down Return of the
Oh
Jedi to do
yes,
this.
Lucas asked a lot of people to do Return of the Jedi.
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
It's just,
Yeah.
I'm thinking Luke going to Lynch and Cronenberg, the two biggest freaks in
forgot.
cinema at
I
that
forgot
point.
who else he
And-
interviewed for it too, but you see that list and you're like, holy shit, we could have had like 17 different Return of the Jedis between. Oh gosh, yeah, it's crazy.
I just
Look,
can't imagine either of those directors directing Return of the Jedi. Like, that
No.
just sounds like so wildly out there. Well,
oh, you don't want a goopy, horny
no,
Return of the
no,
Jedi?
I'm good.
I would like that. I don't know.
Princess,
no.
Princess Leia and her garb.
Oh,
the whole
no.
time.
Lucas was a film bro. Lucas knew who, like, he loved that shit, and it's too bad he didn't do more THX 119 stuff, kind of between and after
Is
Star
that
Wars.
work?
But yeah,
Well, if you guys saw Videodrome at the video store, would this stand out on rental shelves as more like a cerebral or disturbing film compared to like other horror films that might surround it?
I think its cover would
Yeah.
immediately, as much as I had when I first saw it, of what the fuck is that?
It's not gory. It's not anything. It's just cool looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it very much it's a good. I don't know. There's always those covers like Deathstalker is like, okay, it's a cool cover, but that movie sucks. That monster's not in there. Videodrome is very great for like, ooh, I think I got a sense of what's going on in this movie. There's mystery to it, but yet, okay, yeah, it's great.
I'd like to edit my previous statement of say, what the fuck is that? Then I would grab the cover and go, Debbie Harry's in this?
Yeah. Now, and lastly, would you guys say that renting Videodrome would feel like an event rather than just another movie night? If
I
you're
think that,
watching
yeah, this one has
Totally.
definitely
Yeah.
some notoriety on it for a reason. Again, this was like a perfect college film bro movie for a reason. Yeah.
I could
If-
imagine.
Was an
Go ahead,
after you, Eric. I was gonna say, if I knew there was an independent theater within 3 hours of my house that was playing it on the big, I would drive to go see it.
Oh my god, I would love to see this on the big screen.
I've seen this movie probably 25 times, and I'd
love a 35.
I've shown this movie to somebody.
I
Fucking
need to
love
step my game up. Jesus Christ. Well, that's going to wrap it up for After Dark tonight. And if you guys want us to do a part 2 to this video in the near future, drop a comment down below. I want to thank Harrison, Eric, and Kyle for joining me tonight for After Dark. Just wanted to give you guys like a real quick opportunity to plug where the viewers can find you at. Do you guys have anything coming up that you want to promote at all?
Yeah, well, I'm Harrison. I own Static Tape Video in Muskegon, Michigan. I guess the only thing I got coming up is I'll have a nice, big, awesome, fat, juicy sale for Halloween. Get ready for that. I haven't posted yet details on that, but Halloween is a Friday this year. I'm gonna go all out for Halloween's first Halloween in the new store. Yeah, we're gonna have fun on Halloween.
Hell yeah!
Beautiful.
What about you guys? Got anything coming up?
I have my show growing on you live. I have a few interviews coming up for October that are going to showcase some newer horror movies that just showed recently at Fantastic Fest. And then one guest that is a member of a band that has a new record coming out that is probably like my most anticipated hardcore record for this year. So really excited to start probably Monday, which is tomorrow, Tuesday. I'll probably start announcing those episodes.
Hell yeah. Kyle, you got anything coming up that you want to plug?
Nothing on the horizon, man. Other than I'm still I work 6 days a week, so I get I get allotted 15 minutes a week that I can be creative. So keep your eyes peeled on that. I have a few other writing projects that are coming out through a few other zines, and then I have some stuff that I've been working on for some time for the Grand Rapids Film Society as well.
Okay, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, just little stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I definitely want to plug, at least within Grand Rapids, Wealthy Theater, and all the programming that the Film Society is doing right now. The October programming schedule is insane, to be frank. Well, Phantasm's on there at the end of the month.
Oh, man.
Damn. I don't think I saw that.
First showing of October is going to be Houseu. So if you guys want
Damn.
I would love that, actually.
Damn.
Wait to see on the big screen, man.
Make the trip out there.
I think it's October, be this first Tuesday of the month.
Okay.
Very cool. Very cool. Well,
Jesus.
I encourage everyone this Halloween, dare to venture into Stag Tape Video in Muskegon, where the shelves are stacked with the darkest cult classics and the most obscure horror gems. So Harrison carries everything from rare VHS tapes to 4Ks and Blu-rays, everything you need to build your perfect horror movie marathon. So step inside and craft a lineup so terrifying you won't be sleeping tonight. And if you want to expand your horror movie marathon even further, check out Valoria Video. From rare 4Ks and Blu-rays to cult classics you didn't even know existed. They got everything you need to keep the terror going. Use the promo code After Hours 10. Hours is abbreviated to get 10% off your order at checkout. Get ready for a night of horror so intense you won't be sleeping anytime soon. So, like I said, that's a wrap for tonight's After Dark. Thanks for joining us as we explore the unsettling worlds of David Cronenberg, from body horror to psychological terror, and the films that redefine what scares could be. Keep the lights low, the tapes rewound, and the fascination with the bizarre alive. Till next time, stay curious, stay haunted, and keep watching After Dark, where the scares never sleep. See you guys on the next one. Woo.